And for the whole entire day, I've literally just been researching my suspect. I've been doing nothing else.
Opposite of what JJ and I have done.
That's a lie. That is an absolute lie, because I've done loads of fucking research.
Go on then.
Well, yeah, you boys are locked down, ain't ya? Forgot, of course.
What happens when it comes to it? In the thing. Oh, maybe they did. So in the back, there is a
light brown jacket.
cool story.
We're not the first. We definitely won't be the last. We'd like to welcome you. Another conspiracy cast.
That's the plot. Oh, I feel really bad just talking about one of my ancestors like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Not Another Conspiracy Podcast with Mr. Dean Sauter in Michigan.
All right. Hello.
Drinking regular Coke Zero there with no
That's
booze in it.
No booze, no sugar.
And
Touching me
we've
waistline.
got Mr. Pink T-shirt.
And crazy lights.
Crazy light. Look at that setup.
J.J. Jackson.
J.J. Jackson. I need crowd cheering on a soundboard, man. I need that. Why don't I do it? Dude, lovely background. Love it. I like that almost every single episode there's something different, like sat in the background, like a tiny little Easter egg or something like that you need to keep an eye out for.
I still can't work out my left and right either. I'm just like, yeah, it's over there. Oh, no, it's there.
Just you wait till the Easter episode. I'm going to have so many Easter eggs.
Oh, my God. So, yeah.
And it's Southend-on-Sea. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Southend. We're just getting straight into it. Forget the producer.
Southend-on-Sea, the werewolf himself, Mr. Ben Mills.
Sorry, we're simulating blowjobs there, listeners.
November.
Yeah. But I was going to say, yeah, you've either got yourself into the mood by cutting in a really Jack the Rippery looking moustache, or it's purely Movember.
That's what I was going for, actually. It was a Jack the Ripper something to do. But, you know, people would get more weirded out by going, well, I'm doing an episode on the suspects of Jack the Ripper, so I thought I'd shave a mustache to represent the fact that most of the eyewitnesses saw a man with a mustache. I thought I'd just say I was doing Movember, because then it was a lot less weird.
I've just decided not to shave, but then
I wasn't going to, but then my beard was really annoying me.
Yeah, I need to have a little bit of a bit of cultivation at the bottom. Oh no, I trim that like almost every morning. I try to. Yeah. Oh, Ben's like simulating around his mouth, but mine I haven't shaved because of like the nasal surgery that I had, like pressing down on any skin. It was just pure and utter pain. But at the same time, you shouldn't shave really, because real men don't shave.
But I have to say, for everybody who's listening, everyone who's listening at home and is either blind or not watching on YouTube, Ben looks very handsome with a mustache.
Ooh,
if he was to go around and murder loads of prostitutes, I wouldn't think it was him.
It's the facial
He'd get away with it, if you ask me.
It's the facial hair of a serial killer, for sure.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Or a sex offender. Or a child molester.
Yeah.
If I was a police constable back in those days, I'd be like, that's a fine-looking chap. I wouldn't suspect a thing.
It's the Tosh from The Bill.
Do you know what?
That
you
is
look
a reference.
Oh man! Do you know? This is a British TV show from like the early 90s of JJ simulating the feet walking away from the camera. Oh, the two, the man.
Yeah, sorry, the wrong way.
That's it.
Right. Listeners, watchers, pause the podcast, go to your YouTube app and search The Bill, UK
Intro.
TV, and watch the theme music, then come back.
And then you'll understand.
Now you understand.
You understand.
Also, Russell Brand was in The Bill.
He was in The Bill, and you all know, everyone around the world knows who Russell Brand is.
Yeah.
Very fun. And guess what? Russell
Was he
Brand
a drug
is from
addict?
fucking Essex.
Of course he
Yeah.
was. he a drug addict in it as well?
He was in a prison cell for like shoplifting, I think, and then he talks about it on his TV show Ponderland. You can just hear a guy going in the background, an Irish guy just going, "Where's my watch?" Just so random. He's like, if you just listen up right there, you can hear a guy trying to take my limelight, and he's just like, "Where's my watch?"
Was he throwing around brandisms even back then? Just like raw salad everywhere in the prison cell.
It's fucking brilliant. He's just like, he puts his head through the little door and he's just like, "Hello, mate. Don't know if I could like possibly trouble you for a phone call." And then you just hear a guy going, "Where's my watch?"
I need to
glove.
I'm gonna have to check that out at some
Guys,
point.
yeah, and
It's so good.
Definitely check out Ponderland. It's Russell Brand's
Best work.
I was
greatest
thinking.
work. Ponderland.
I was thinking that Ben
and
looked
Bookie Watch
like.
really good as well.
I was thinking Ben looked like Detective Inspector Derek Grimm from the Thin Blue Line. That guy, I was fucking brilliant. You see it, don't you?
We already discussed, Dean, that he looks like Tom DeLonge in the First Date music video.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Yes. See, that's great. Yeah, that's the most acceptable child molester in punk.
There's a notification there that Tom DeLonge is not a child molester. Well, not a known child molester.
I love him. I love him. I swear.
Unlike many singer guitarists in bands, isn't a child molester. Steve Klein, Newfound Glory.
Ian Watkins.
Lost Prophets.
Yeah.
Both men didn't have moustaches, so there you go. Moustache don't make us the paedophile.
No.
I used to get told I looked like Ian Watkins when I was younger. Ben remembers that. That was horrid.
But my passport, I actually look like the mugshot of Ian Watkins.
Grim.
Grim, yeah.
Got a little cut in your eyebrow.
Megalols.
Oh, brilliant.
Man.
What a dark. And if you don't know, Lost Prophets were a new metal band.
Yeah, you'd have said that. Yeah, new metal.
Band from the UK, from Wales.
For anybody who's
very,
just
very
been listening
popular.
on Twitch or Instagram, Ben did not sing with the Lost Prophets. He sang with every other famous
I
band.
did tour with Lost Prophets. And I never saw Ian, ever.
Around children, or you just never saw him?
Never saw him. Never saw him off stage.
It's probably because he was with kids.
With kids,
That's what Fern Corn said as well. She said she went on tour with him for like 7 months, and she said, like, I never saw anything happen, but I was only with him for 2 hours a day. I was like, yeah, there's a lot more hours in the day than two. There's another 22 of them.
There's 22 more hours. And there's probably 22 more children. 22-year-olds.
All their venues that they were playing at were near a secondary school or a primary school, like, or even a nursery. Yeah, gross.
As a parent, I think that's disgusting. And I'm sure as non-parents and just normal human beings, you also think he's disgusting.
Yes. And apparently he's still at it in prison.
What? With kids in prison?
Yeah. Apparently he's got access to all sorts of shit in prison. Apparently he's just got an extended sentence.
That's it for the mobile phone, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a mobile phone and he was coercing another woman who's obviously never heard of him. Yeah. They're like, you look a lot different to what you used to look like. You're like 20 stone heavier.
You may not have heard of me, but I was in a band called Lost Prophets. Send us a picture of the kids' tits, will you?
Wait, are you, man?
Why, man? No bother. Yeah, we're not.
I'm not an undead or
no. Dean was implying that the victim was a Geordie. I'm guessing because you wouldn't like.
I can't see,
man. I'm blind, man.
To reference another obscure TV show from Britain, Biker Grove. Anyway, speaking of obscure things that happened in Britain, we are talking about the suspects for the Jack the Ripper murders that we discussed on the last episode.
Episode 2.
Part 2, episode 12.
Oh, sorry. Yes, part 2, episode 12.
Jack the Ripper part 2. Yeah. So last week, or whenever we put this out, it will be last week. Actually, we will actually have one a week later. Last week we discussed,
and this has been the most difficult time to get together. Like,
also we've alluded to Welsh paedophiles for more of this episode than we have the actual episode.
Fuck's sake. You can kiss YouTube demonetization goodbye before it even got there.
Yeah. Thank God we're not monetized because this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is
moving swiftly away from child molesters from Wales, we're going to talk about some of the suspects that might have been involved with the Jack the Ripper murders.
All I'm thinking about is a bottom episode now where Eddie and Richie start going, hello, Klein Dock Windmill.
Fucking English bastards! Cannibal Taffy O'Jones!
Right, we need to stop getting off of topic. I know that I've got American listeners and American friends that are listening to this. Sorry, that are wondering what on fucking earth am I listening to? But I apologise. We're referencing.
There's 6 English listeners.
Yeah,
they've got every reference so far.
Yes, yeah. We're referencing a few British TV shows, but yeah, we're going to be going through our suspects of the Jack the Ripper. The Jack the Ripper mystery. Throughout 1888, there are how many suspects, Ben? Like.
This is just the top line. Like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
I counted 14.
But actually, there's probably 1, 2, 3.
A lot more?
7, 8,
is that Ben's counting for?
One of the big questions is how many of their names end in ski?
Yes,
there's about 32 that get thrown about a lot. There's probably more than that. There's more. In fact, today on Twitter, someone replied to us.
Yeah.
Trying to swing some. I didn't even read it. I was like, I've not got time to think of another.
Was it a thread?
No, like it's just someone just. I'll find it now, but. Someone, I was like, I haven't got time to even read this because I've got my guy in my head. I don't want to know about anyone else right now.
Yeah. Just give us a name. Sorry, JJ, go ahead.
Just a quick one for you guys. So, for anybody who didn't see last week's episode, don't know why you're watching this episode. You need to go watch that. But did any of you guys pick the guy James Cross or John Cross? Right. Okay. Just to get that out there, I watched possibly. I don't like talking. Cross. Was it Charles Cross? But he was actually called something else. His name wasn't Cross. Yeah, is that the? Yeah. Have you picked that guy?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right. Okay. I'll leave that. I'll leave that then because
I'll get back to that comment then.
Yeah. I watched possibly. I don't like talking down other people's things because. But I watched possibly one of the worst podcasts I've ever seen, and it's just
podcast.
It's just 2 random people sat on a sofa reading a Wikipedia and discussing the Wikipedia about that guy. But I'll talk about what I'm going to talk about when you bring this guy up.
No,
I'm just like, right.
I think that what makes it good though, because it adds testament to the entire mystery of the suspects and how many suspects there are and how easy it is to throw names around when it comes to this case, because I've looked at this particular person, and from what the research that I've done and I've read, in my head I'm going, of all people, to me I've got alarm bells going crazy, whereas you have just almost completely rebutted it. Essentially, you're just like, how could it be that guy?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is the podcast right. So basically these 2 girls, I'm not going to talk about that part now, but they're basically reading a script and they're pretending like they're like crime scene investigation. They're just like, trying to like, oh well, it possibly could have been in because of this. I'm like, that's the only research you've done. Like, I don't do any research.
God, right.
You know, I wing shit. But they are reading a Wikipedia page, like, which gives you everything. And they're breaking it down. And then they go like 5 sentences down and just like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense then. All right, yeah, cool. You know, it's got that's not a spoiler for your guy at all. Like,
no. They don't. Right, good. I understand now.
They're just like, oh, well, it could have been him. And then they're like, oh, well, they read this thing and they're like, oh, well, yeah, it could have been. It couldn't have been. Like, you didn't need to. Yeah, you didn't need to even read it. You could have just used your shitty fucking analysis of that guy. But yes,
I can assure you that my notes have been. Yeah, I have been very thorough with this guy because I've been my particular guy, Charles Cross / Lechmere. That name has stood out to me mahusively. So
I'm glad you got that guy. I'm glad you picked that guy because their analysis was terrible. Yeah,
I'm glad I can do some justice then, man.
So speaking of terrible, obviously the person that I picked, the suspect. Shall I go now?
Go
Shall I start, man? Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the main media picked the most one that I was obsessed with because it's obviously got to do with the royal family and probably the hugest conspiracy of it all was the fact that it was Prince Albert. What was this? Prince Albert Victor.
That's yes.
He basically, or AKA Eddie, I don't know where the Eddie part came from. I'm guessing his dad was called Edward or something like that. He was the Queen's grandson. So he's basically like a William or an Edward for anybody in America who doesn't know what a grandson is. So yeah, he was. I don't know. So he basically had a pretty good upbringing. Obviously, it's a royal family. He was basically a bit of a dummy, I think, from what I've read about him. People referred to him as a bit of a dummy. They were like, he looks like a runt as well. Like he looks a bit like, and they said he was very wet and he was just like,
Oh, so he's clearly related to bloody what's his face, who's best friends with Epstein. Fucking Prince
Andrew,
yeah, but he can't sweat.
Yeah.
No, don't malign the non-sweaters. He can't sweat, guys. Come on.
It's not a nonce.
It's not a nonce.
So he was like, again, like a bit of an outcast. He was kind of, I believe, I'm not too sure. I believe he wasn't in line for the throne because he was the youngest. He was the youngest grandson of like 3, maybe, I'm thinking.
So he's like, Harry of our era.
Yeah, exactly. So he's the Harry. Well, Harry is not in line for the throne anyway, is he? Because he's definitely someone else's.
He's illegitimate.
Yeah. Yes.
It runs in the family.
Yeah.
Well, that's another episode.
Completely.
The illegitimacy of the UK royalty.
Family.
Bloody.
Yeah. So he was basically a bit of an outcast, and so he went to university, and they basically just. I think one of the things I saw was that he wasn't meant for university. Somebody said to him, "You are not meant for higher education," basically implying you're a dafty. So I think he obviously, because he's royal family, he probably just got paid off, got his degree, and then he joined the army or joined the like military. I guess they just give him the outfit. I don't think he actually joined like all the royal family. They don't actually do anything in the army, do they? They just wear a nice costume.
More of something to be like, well, you're definitely not going to get a degree legitimately. You might as well show your patriotism.
Yeah.
Like the army, right? Yeah.
And apparently around that time when he started wearing all these nice clothes, he started looking more the part. So they were like, yeah, you're not the academic type. You're a bit more of an army guy. So you look great. You look pretty handsome. I've seen pictures of him. Like he still doesn't look handsome. He looks daft. It's like pistols in the snow kind of eyes. And then, so that's like his background and stuff. And they were saying that he kind of wore I think one of the things was he wore the outfit very well. So instead of him actually being the guy, like this super army soldier, he just looked a good one.
Yeah, I understand.
And the word was thrown around that he was a bit of a dandy, which I always thought a dandy was a name for a homosexual.
Yes.
which at the time in England was still illegal, so you couldn't have sex with another person of the same sex. It was still punishable by hard labor.
Firing squad. Oh, hard labor.
No, yeah, you had to like you had to go to a workhouse, which is obviously not good. Not good if you're in the royal family, because they're like, who's that dandy? Oh, he's Prince. Blah blah blah.
He's got really shit chops, isn't he? Sorry, I've just seen a picture.
He has a very thin kind of, as if it all grew here and he just brushed it out over the years. There's no other stubble. He basically he's got a shit tash from like when he was 13, and he just grew it long enough to put into a real tash. But if he brought it forward, there would be nothing else underneath it.
I call that the senior school facial hair. That is.
Yeah. So there's so many theories about this guy, and this is why I wanted to go first and get it out of the way, because just as a precursor, there's so many theories that there's no real evidence around any of them. So I'm just going to go for the wildest one. One of the wildest theories is that he contracted, whilst in the West Indies, he contracted syphilis, which made him from a prostitute.
Yeah.
This is the wildest theory. I'll just get it out straight away. He contracted syphilis from a prostitute in the West Indies. The syphilis had worked all the way to his brain and made him go mental. And then he came back to England. I'm presuming the syphilis was still working. I don't think he just went mental and it was like... and he took vengeance on all the people who he believed had caused him the problem. So prostitutes or sex workers or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the wildest theory. That's the most simplest one. And then obviously there's loads of theories that stem from that. Like I say, you guys chime in whenever, but there's obviously all these theories entwine. So there's some people who believe he had syphilis, and then that wasn't the thing that made him go crazy. He just decided he didn't want to have green stuff oozing out of his dick, or he wanted to blame people for it. So he went on mad killing spree.
Yeah, and back then syphilis was like as what coronavirus is now. Everyone seemed to get it, but you really didn't want to get it because in the end,
it was like chlamydia is now.
Is it? Did it kind of?
I don't think it was curable. Like it
wasn't back then.
Syphilis was
Also,
it was like
had
warty cock.
symptoms. Unlike chlamydia, you should get yourself checked.
And it's not chlamydia awareness month, but this is the color of chlamydia, pink. So if you ever see anyone wearing a pink ribbon,
they've got chlamydia.
It's funny as well as how it comes across as one of the most
the big C, as we call it.
The big C. The
biggest C.
Yeah. It's funny as well how the theory behind Prince Albert is tosh. It just sounds like fucking really loose end. But yet it sufficed for Hollywood in From Hell.
Well, that's
yeah. So the thing for me was that I've
been reading this factual book that's just.
I love the fact that you actually bought the book.
Your big comic book.
Because
it's good though.
The film doesn't do this justice.
Okay, so is that what the film's based on?
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's based from.
That was what immediately drew me in was the Masonic link.
And the film is nowhere near as convincing as that.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, this is the real story.
Now, JJ, when it comes to
by the way, I'm referencing From Hell by Alan Moore, the most miserable man on the planet.
Is with Prince Albert, granted the movie obviously follows the Masonic links, was there anything real in reality that connected Prince Albert and the Masonic links? And
so the idea of the film is, from what I believe, they don't really talk about Prince Albert that much in it. It's kind of like a shadow of the thing, but the idea was that
they're covering up an illegitimate child,
which would be heir to the throne, but that again isn't proven because it wouldn't be heir to the throne because the child would be like 1,000 year, but 1,000 year old by the time the Queen sheds her fucking skin suit. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, the concept of the film is that they find that the first murdered victim, the first of the Conical Five, has an illegitimate child. Well, no, the thing is, with the film, she doesn't get murdered, does she? She goes to a
she's
mental
friends with the
asylum.
prostitutes who
But I
witnessed
think
the marriage.
The lobotomy post dates the Jack the
The
Ripper,
movie, the era.
the era.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
that
it does.
she wouldn't have been lobotomized.
No.
Which is, I don't think she gets lobotomized in the book, from what I imagine. But the book is based on a book by Stephen Knight, like a documentary, like a real book, called Jack the Ripper: The Final Solution.
Oh God,
Which
that
is
choice
not a
of
great
fucking...
title because it was made in 1976, so they already had the
yeah.
thing with those guys. Over
Yeah,
there
you
in
can.
Germany. They'd already done that.
Those ones Indiana Jones beat up at one time.
You wouldn't want to call the book The Final Solution.
Yeah, don't do that.
But yeah, that book was based on testimony of a man that claimed his grandmother was the girl who married Albert in secret and then had the love child.
Fucking hell! I
Annie
did not
Crook.
think there was any genuine.
Yeah, Annie Crook. Yeah.
I think Annie Crook's the daughter, or Alice.
No, Annie Crook sounds right. That's
Annie
the
Crook's the woman that was making love
Me
to
love.
to the Prince Albert, and they had their love child, which is Alice Crook, I believe. And Alice Crook is real, and Annie Crook are both real. There is like birth and death records that prove that those two people existed, but there's no proof to say that Alice Crook
Yeah.
is this. Yeah, but
which is weird because technically Alice Crook, the daughter, the granddaughter, or the daughter of him,
yeah.
she, in the event that she lasted 80 years, that would take you to like 1960. Like, surely, if there was theories of that, they could have done DNA tests. There's a really
I didn't know.
yeah.
that.
You would think that would have been like something they would have checked out.
Right? Yeah. To be even.
Did you guys hear the theory about? Did you? So I told you about that video. There's a theory in there that it was Albert's gay lover that killed these prostitutes in vengeance of. Yeah, so he had a tutor he had two first names. I can't remember which it was. I'm sure it was Stuart Andrew or Andrew Stewart or something like that. He had a tutor who he was the only person who saw potential in him when everyone was calling him a dummy.
Yeah.
So like immediately you've got that kind of, is it Stockholm syndrome kind of thing where you like your not oppressor, but
you're being contained somewhere. You're gonna yeah.
So there's a theory that he was the guy who was trying to cover it up. So in the film, it's the Masonic link that tried.
Is it
James Stewart? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I knew it was I knew it was Stewart. I knew he had two first names or two second names or whatever. But yeah, there's a theory that he was the one who was doing it to kind of, because apparently after Albert got syphilis, he became really reclusive and like his only thing was like he could romance women because he was a royal. So he was but because of the gay connection from the other side, he wasn't gay. He was trying to like be like, oh, you don't need those women. You don't need those women. He's like, yeah, but that's the only thing I've got now. And he was like trying to prove a point by killing all these prostitutes.
Well, yeah.
So that's another wild theory. Again, no proof.
Just literally finger pointing and stuff.
The main thing that stops Albert being the Ripper was the fact that he was nowhere near London at the time of the murders.
Yeah, so that's the big evidence that he was.
How does that just get missed? Like,
but where was he? Where was he? That's
the main conspiracy is that it was a royal cover-up. That Albert wasn't the Ripper. That they were covering up the illegitimate child and the wedding.
Yeah. The From Hell portrays the movie. Yes.
So they were saying that a lot of the
final solution, the book, The Final Solution,
Jesus.
Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution by Stephen Knight gets that. It was basically Albert incidentally making him the legitimate heir to the throne. Yeah.
So was that? So in the film they were obviously making links with like they kept talking about Masonic ritual in the way that because there was a lot of referencing of throwing the lungs over the shoulders, which I think it comes from like Nordic rituals and stuff like that. It's all to do with like freeing the inner soul by opening it up as much as possible. I know that like in Vikings and stuff, they like bring up the wings and shit, don't
Is
they?
that from Wayne's World? Is that what's his name from Wayne's World, where he's Garth sitting there stabbing the donuts and the chef?
Oh yeah.
Did you hear in Viking times that when they'd kill a man in the heat of battle,
it's Indian.
His soul
yeah.
is escaping from his body. Like,
yeah.
Fuck.
If you kill a man in a heat of passion, it's murder. Hello. It's Al Bundy. It's Al Bundy from 2.4
it's Al Bundy essentially, isn't it?
But yeah, I think so. In the film, they talk about how it was because they don't really reference the royal connection, do they? But they kind of say it's Masonic.
Yeah, it's they introduce it, and it's like, okay, forget about that. It's a crazy thing, but hey, royal family, no one likes them.
They briefly talk about it because at the beginning it shows you the guy with the mustache who was meant to be Albert with the woman, and then her having the child, and then her taken away and like lobotomizing her.
Yeah.
Or like 13mm screwing her in the head.
Mary Kelly doesn't really die, and she goes away to Ireland with the kid. But Johnny Depp, he's too scared to go and meet her because he don't want her to die.
No, because he knows there's no heroin in Ireland. That's why he stays.
Can't do that, Mr. Coltrane.
Yeah, he's like.
That film.
But there were pennies.
Alan Moore absolutely despises that film.
He does.
Yeah.
He thinks it was atrocious. But it's not a great film, is it?
It's a very 5 out of 10 Netflix watch when I'm incredibly bored sort of movie.
There's a lot of better films out there than that film.
Yeah.
But
so there's just one more thing that is like links Albert and I'm not. This links Albert to another person I want to talk about, but I want you guys to do your ones, and then we can talk about the elephant in the room. Albert apparently, so that area of London at the time, Whitechapel, was like quite frequented by Aristotle. Aristocratics and royals.
Aristocracy.
And apparently there was a gay brothel or like a rent boy place, I guess. Okay. And there's a documentation from a young paper seller.
Right.
And he's found with like 13 shillings in his pocket. And they say they weren't meant to carry money apart from the money that they earned from selling papers or whatever.
Right, yes, and that was a lot for a kid, wasn't it?
And 13 shillings, like, must be like 50p or like five Freddos.
We just watched Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory today with the kids, and he only got $1 for like a week's work. So.
500 papers. Yeah. And all of his grandparents slept in one bed.
Yeah. And that was. Do you know that film was shot in Munich? I never noticed until today.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it since I was 7 until today.
So what was the significance about this brothel and the paper seller?
So the paper seller had said that he was basically he'd had sex with 3 high class gentlemen, and basically he wouldn't say who they were because he was worried of the consequences.
Repercussions, yeah.
So they eventually got hold of the guy who was running the brothel, which was also a high-class gentleman. And obviously to get himself out of bother, he wrote down initials on a piece of paper, which were PAV. And he handed them to the police guy. And apparently that actual document is still
in existence somewhere.
In existence, yeah. Whoa. So that is the connection from that. But it later was found that the child had admitted that it was Prince Albert, or what he believed was Prince Albert, Victor.
Whoa.
But this links in with the gentleman who we're going to speak about, which I think I'll let you guys go because I'm just worried in case one of you guys is, even though I know one of you hasn't, but so basically they were saying that obviously if the concept is that he is a homosexual covering up something, but then people are saying he isn't, you know, they're saying he's had a child with somebody. Doesn't mean that he's not gay. It just means that he's had a child with somebody and, like, you know, decided he was gay or he was gay before that or whatever. Maybe he was just testing the water with his sexuality, whatever. But, so there's a few people saying that he did frequent the gay areas. And the theory that he despised women because there was a lot of people believe that the murders themselves were really, really against the female figure,
genitalia,
i.e., removing fucking uteruses and stuff. And they believe, like, but then it's one of them. If he caught syphilis from a prostitute, would he just turn gay? You know, would it make him go mental? But again, there's no proof. Like Ben said, it proves immediately that he wasn't in the country. But we all know how easy it is for the royal family just to go, oh, Prince Albert's not here. Yeah. Like, for instance, like Eugenie's living with Prince Andrew at the moment. And Eugenie, she's living with Prince Andrew. But she's just got married.
Yeah.
She's just been married. But she's back at the home with dad and mum.
Yeah,
which
but
is
Pizza Express is on Deliveroo where they live, so
that does make sense. Yeah, but yeah, apart from that, I don't know if you guys know any more stuff about him because again, there is no proof. Like a lot of these,
unless you're reading The Final Solution.
Fucking hell.
By
We're
Steve
definitely
Stephen
never
Knight.
getting monetized.
I'm gonna. What does it? What is this inside joke? I don't get it. Well, not an inside joke, but do we not talk about it?
No, like World War II, The Final Solution.
I've never. Yeah, I'm guessing it's something to do with the
Holocaust, man.
Yeah.
The murder
all right,
of
I didn't realize that's what it was called.
It was that was what the operation was called, or it was. If all else fails, this will be the final solution.
Yeah,
oh,
no,
God.
yeah. We don't want to go there though. So
was written in 1976.
It's fucking tender area.
We always and I've said this from episode 1 that if you delve deep enough into a conspiracy, it will come back to the Jews
some way or another.
But like the whole thing going through with these victims, these suspects, a lot of suspects were put forward because they were either of Eastern European descent or they were immigrants from Eastern Europe or they were Jewish.
Yep.
It was a lot of the victims were put forward because
they were Jewish.
Prejudices.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. It's the same now as if, like, you're like, oh, yeah, you can't... Like, in England, especially, you're like, it's probably the Somalians, or it's probably the...
Yeah, there's just something that you would expect them to throw around. And back then,
when you
absolutely.
know for a fact that it's probably John Smith from the fucking Kurzel estate who's been signing on for 13 years, but he's also drives an Audi A4 that he gets from selling weed. All you need to look at.
Blame an immigrant and move along.
All you need to look at are the police drawings of the suspects.
It's me. Yeah. I've got a big nose and a mustache.
Like, you just need to look at some of the pictures and you'd be like, okay, that's of a typical white guy. All right, there's another white guy. Bloody hell, that's the 1800s depiction of a minority of some form.
It's that. Have you seen
horrendous.
Borat 2, when Borat enters the synagogue? All the drawings of Jack the Ripper are of Borat dressed pretending to be Jewish.
Or it's the running of the Jew, like that scene with the big mask that's like their depictions. It's like, who's this? Oh, so this is Kuzminski. Oh, bloody hell, we are. There's his nose. Like, it's just Jesus Christ.
All of us, none of us have picked any of those suspects as who we think
as suspects.
Clearly, is prejudice that has caused it to be those. And before we go any further, because I think me and Dean both have actually quite possible suspects for who Jack the Ripper could have been.
Right, yeah.
I think we should quickly run through some of the possible suspects.
Some of the possible, yeah.
I thought you were trying to link this into our sponsor,
OG Socks.
And we all know that Jewish people don't wear socks.
You need to stop.
Yeah, they do.
Oh my god.
They love
Oh.
socks.
And sandals.
OG socks, incredibly comfortable socks. We want to thank you for the sponsor.
Look at these ones with donuts on them.
20% off if you use the code NAC at checkout. They're great socks, though.
I know a
they
couple
are.
of people have ordered from them this week using our code.
Oh,
So
really?
so JJ, you need to get in touch with them because I think we might have actually
Earn some more socks.
We might have earned some more socks. And I need some. I want some 420 socks is what I want. Because I've been on an online ordering spree this week.
Yeah.
And because tomorrow the Xbox Series X arrives and I want to be high from the moment that Yodel delivery arrives.
Yeah, because
that
no,
moment-
man, I'd be very sober in case they throw it over the back fence, claiming that you didn't answer the front door.
I was just about to say, if Yodel is sending it, you won't get it.
No, because it's lockdown. We have to be in. We will be in.
Oh, that fucks them up, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they'll just take a photo of it outside someone else's house and say, we definitely delivered it.
And that definitely happens because that happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and I will post a picture on Instagram. Because it's definitely not my house. My house is black. Painted. My whole house is black. I painted
That's
it black
sick,
myself.
man.
Maybe that's it. They couldn't see it.
Oh, I'm too scared to go in there. Gov. But I plan to be high from tomorrow when my Yodel delivery of my Xbox arrives until my PlayStation arrives next week.
Ooh.
And then I'll be high until the end of that week.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Okay.
Anyway, so order from ogsocks.co.uk because we need to make a living while we're in lockdown.
Absolutely.
And JJ,
Please purchase.
I'm sure we've got some kind of deal where we actually get the money back, right?
No.
No, okay.
No. Oh, Ben's camera's just
we are
gone
that
wonky.
selfless that we have got a deal that you just get money off your socks just for being a listener.
I mean, they did send us a good pack of socks.
Oh,
And
Good pack of socks.
yeah, and they get the guys there that they're the same terrorists, just trying to make a living, man, trying to make a living. So maybe the 6 pairs of socks that we've sold during this podcast, it might make the meet this month.
Keep staying
Yeah.
afloat, then that's fine. Until we make our own socks, and then fuck OG socks.
Jesus. Lockdown's really getting to you, man.
Ben's camera's been drinking as well. It just fucking fell on his hat.
No, I literally just punched it. And if anyone, JJ just muted his audio on Zoom as well, which is going to be really good.
Oh, he's back. No, he's just. Oh, that entrance.
I
to the
know.
town, smoky baked. Look
I
at
know.
that. That was
Baked.
awesome. Tonight, Matthew, I'm gonna be.
One of the comments, again, we were talking earlier on, Dean, about how we have those friends who don't, like you said last week, those friends who are like, I'll listen to your podcast, but don't tell anyone else.
Yeah, that's
And one of my friends was like, yeah, I love it. And then basically just proceeded and tell me all the bad things about it, which was, who was it who's vaping? I was like, well, it's probably me because mine's so fucking loud. So now I've started muting it for Niall. If you're listening, Niall, I've started muting it for you.
Fuck you, Niall.
Yeah, fuck you, Niall.
Fuck you, Niall.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that was a digression that we have never gone that far digressed from the main episode before, I don't think. ever.
Jesus Christ.
That was crazy. That's because me and JJ have been drinking since about 8.
Oh, right. There you go, then.
And that's where I was digressing because I was going to say thank you to everyone that tuned into the Twitch earlier. It was actually quite successful.
Oh, good. I'd like to be a part of it one day, but I was at work, unfortunately. So
Yeah, no, you have to finish work earlier.
We should start doing it. We'll start doing it really early in the morning, Dean. So you can be pissed at night or whatever. And we'll just be like,
Next
I'm
time
so
you go out
tired.
drinking, make us wake up and join you. You say, I'm going live on Twitch now.
No way.
And we're like, all right, okay, we'll wake up. Hello? And you're like, I've been to the pub. But they
Just
call it a bar.
for
They
the
call it a
American.
bar in America, but I call it a pub.
For the American listeners, we're currently in England, so everything's locked down. Me and Ben have nothing to do. So we were literally twiddling our thumbs from our normal work finish time, 6 o'clock. And I know people are laughing, going, JJ, you've never finished work at 6 o'clock ever. Usually about 2 in the afternoon. So we were like, we need to go live. We need to do something. And we did.
We did.
And that was cool.
Guys, do you want to know what I have been doing today?
Go ahead.
Dean's like, no, I don't.
I am currently making a music video for Enya.
What?
That's crazy.
Enya.
Yeah, Enya.
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 Why? What?
Enya. I pitched it. I got it. Anyway, back to Jack the Ripper.
Yeah,
Enya
my God.
isn't Jack the Ripper.
How did we get to Enya? What? From the mean streets of Whitechapel to Enya.
From Ireland. There's more to Ireland than this.
Fucking hell.
Getting
We are
this.
not getting sponsors.
He is not Bono. This is rubbish.
Here's the rubbish.
Okay, Ben.
Right,
my
yeah.
God.
The suspects. Right.
Suspects, come on.
So there are about 32 suspects, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to list off a few now that aren't Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
We've got Neil Cream.
Neil Cream. It sounds like a really crap artist from Basildon.
So, Neil Cream.
Just-
Dr. Neil Cream was hanged
Unbuttoned
at
white
Newgate
shirt.
Prison on the 15th of November 1892 for poisoning 4 prostitutes in London. As he was being hanged, James Billington claimed that he heard him say, "I am Jack!"
just before just before he got hung.
Just as the trap fell from beneath his feet.
Ah, he's trolling.
Was he about to confess to being Jack the
He's
Ripper?
trolling.
I don't think so, because he was poisoning, and Jack the Ripper never poisoned. Another potential Ripper was Mrs. Piercy.
I thought you was going to go, I'm Mrs. Nesbit.
No. In October 1980, in October 1890,
Piercy.
not 1980, because she would be really fucking old. Mary Piercy murdered her lover's wife, Phoebe Hogg, and her baby daughter. She was hanged for the crime at Newgate Prison on 23rd of December 1890. In 1939, author William Stewart proposed her as a contender for being Rick Jackson.
I like as well where we're referencing this from. They have not gone any further in divulging like any evidence pointing towards this one. It's like, William Stewart proposed her as a contender once. Oh, did he?
Well, she could.
Yeah, he did. Moving on.
Like I said, she could, again, there's probably the same amount of evidence
right
for her as there is every other suspect.
So, tell us about your 2 ones, because
No, I've got to go through these because there are lots.
yeah, there's 13 of them though. That's everybody in fucking London, in Victorian London, is just like, yeah, I knew Jack the Ripper. I knew him. I worked with him. He wore a little apron.
So,
He had a little bloody apron on.
this one's another one, which is Louis Dimschitz.
Oh, him.
So he found Elizabeth Stride's body outside, and he was a steward of the International Working Men's Education.
Yes, yeah.
So he found the body.
He's in a very similar situation to my prime suspect. It was a mere case of the coincidence of him leaving the club, I believe, and him arriving back at the scene, and then him claiming that he didn't see a body because upon leaving, if it had been there earlier, because it was so dark in the yard. Like he was just.
Do you want to hear me read his account of finding the body in a funny accent?
Absolutely.
Do you want me to do a funny accent, or do you want me to do a normal accent?
What accent? What accent? Are you doing?
Can you do Ian Watkins's accent again? Can you do Jack the Ripper in Ian Watkins's accent?
He's not Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, no, but can you? Just in case I want to make another suspect up. Just to make this a 6-hour episode rather than a 3-1.
On Saturday, I left home about 11:30 in the morning, and I returned home exactly at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. I noticed the time at a tobacco shop in the commercial road. I was driving a pony harnessed as a costermonger's barrow. I don't keep the pony in the yard of the club, but in George Yard, Cable Street, I drove the barrow home in order to leave my goods there. I drove it into the yard. Both gates were open. Wide open. It was rather dark there. I drove it in as usual, but as I came into the gate, my pony shied to the left. And that made me look at the ground to see what was cause of it was. I could see that there was something unusual on the pavement, but I could not see what it was. It was a dark object.
Is this the only
It's the whole
Dutch
thing.
suspect? There was a clog on the pavement.
It's a Jamaican accent there by JJ. I tried to feel it with my handle of my whip to discover what it was. I tried to lift it up with it. As I could not, I jumped down at once and struck a match. It was rather windy, and I could not get a light. Norman, you dirty bastard! What are you doing? I could not get a light sufficient to show that it was a figure of some person, whom by the dress I knew to be a woman.
No, it certainly wasn't a bloke.
I took no further notice of it, but I went into the club and asked where my missus was. I found her in the front room on the ground floor. I left the pony in the yard by itself just outside the club door. My wife was with several of the members of the club. I told them, there's a woman lying in the yard, but I cannot see whether she's drunk or dead.
Like, I can't believe that. There's so much more.
You can't believe how good his Welsh accent is, or you just can't believe the story.
I tell you what, I then got a candle and went down. By that light, I could see there were bloody. Even before I reached the body, I did not touch the body, but when I do once for the police.
It sounds like Paul Gascoigne in a witness testimony.
Well, everyone Gascoigne.
I've got a box of chicken for him, and I've got a fishing rod, and I've got a.
Oh, come on, Morty!
Right.
Come on,
Right,
Morty!
right,
Stop
right, yeah,
shooting policeman now.
So being the only sober one here, there was just a few references to a footballer back home there in England. But yeah, can I just say,
of all time.
I don't understand how he's just seen the body of a woman in a courtyard, and then he was just gone in the club, and he's just mentioned. By the way,
there's a drunk woman or a dead woman out there.
There's a body just laying on the floor, but I don't know if she's alive or not. Like, what sort of person does that?
But that is testament to how much the Welsh can speak, because because all he needed to say was there on Saturday. I went home and there was no body, and then on my way back into the yard, my pony or my horse shied away. There was clearly something there. I couldn't lift it with my whip, so I got off the cart. It was a woman. I couldn't tell if she was drunk or dead. So I went inside to get a light to go and have a look, and she was dead. That's all that I just did. That really long rambling nonsense
could have been condensed.
I went home. There was no one there. On my way, when I got back, my
there
horse
was.
noticed there was a body. We didn't know if she was drunk or dead, so I got a light, and she was dead.
Do you know what I mean?
It goes on, though.
And then 130 years later, he would not be spoken of.
Yeah. But instead,
I can't believe it goes on
and on like that. I got to there, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 18 more paragraphs of his description.
What?
Yeah, and it ends with it would have been quite possible a man to escape from the yard while I was driving up the club door. But after I had told the members that I had seen nobody, I think he could have escaped. So
and then did he say, "Kiss my lucky egg"?
Rubber-diggy rapids.
Rubber-diggy rapids.
So that was just a guy that just came across a body, and he just had a really, really terrible alibi, basically.
Yeah.
So is this the same? Is this the same account that we talked about last week? Is this the same victim?
Yes.
Am I right?
This wasn't the double event, was it?
This is Elizabeth Stride.
Oh no, it was the double event then. Yeah, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were the double event. So yeah, he found the first victim that people believe that he was startled because there wasn't a lot wrong with her, was there? I think there was
She was just blood everywhere.
Oh right, it might have been because there was one. I think it was the one in Mitre Square where
That's the
he
one that
really
was-
went
yeah.
to town. Yeah. So it wasn't her. She had been killed. She had probably, I think she must have been slashed across the throat or something, or punctured, like stabbed. And sorry, JJ, go ahead.
Wasn't this the one where they said her head had almost fallen off?
No, that was
Right, okay.
Mary Ann Nichols. That was Mary Ann Nichols.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So without, maybe we can intervene some of these suspects in each of your guys' suspects, because I'm just getting really confused at who's who.
So Jim Schutz. I think
Dim
I remember.
Schutz.
I remember making fun of his name in the last episode.
Yes, Louis Dimschutz.
He interrupted. Basically, They say he interrupted the Ripper.
Yeah, he interrupted when he
And
was
is this-
on the double event.
Is this the one in the film where the English actor turns around, the handsome cab driver is like, "Hey, Dave shits," and then or whatever it is, and he runs off, and he's just like, "Oh,
he's
sorry,
like,
I wasn't even looking," and then he runs off.
That's it. He shouts like none of your fucking business, Dim Schwitz. Or
Yeah,
something, doesn't he?
okay.
Yeah.
So that's the
scene.
reference. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And then another suspect was Walter Sickert, who was like.
Now
He sounds like a cool killer. Like if Walter
It's a great
Sickert
name.
is like, yeah, great name, maybe not a murderer,
Definitely
but
not Walter Sickert. He was. I think he's grandson linked him to the murders like later on, but it
What a
definitely
tosser!
wasn't
What a tosser!
him. You know, my granddad was
Already he was Jack the Whipper.
and then there's James Maybrick, who apparently
not James May.
not James May.
No.
Brilliant broadcaster, James May. No,
Yeah.
James Maybrick was the guy that they found the journal that turned out to be
and he
forged.
yes.
So
And they claimed there was some allegory that led to him saying, "I'm Jack the Ripper" or something weird like that. I think we mentioned this in the last episode. In actual fact,
For this Francis Tumblety.
What's the name of?
That's the guy who I did more research on because I was more interested in that guy.
Okay.
He's again, like I feel like you guys need to. It's like playing a dirty game of poker. Like I want to know what you guys are thinking about your guys,
I
and
can
then
see what
like.
you mean, yeah.
But Francis Tumblety is the one, and for anybody who isn't part of our Patreon or part of our Discord, like our community has been pretty like solid on these ideas. Victoria was the one who brought this forward, I believe. And I didn't. I literally it just came up on my next video today to watch, and he seems like everything lines up with that guy, and his history is fucking weird.
It
like,
is.
yeah. So he believed he was some sort of like Indian herb shaman or shaman. Like he believed that he could cure people using herbs and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's an American guy, and he lived in America all this time, and he used to collect uteruses, which immediately I'm just like, a guy who collects uteruses, and he moved to England around the same time.
Yeah.
And when he got arrested, there was no Ripper murderers, and he got released on probation. And then the last murder happened, and then they pulled him back in after probation, and then there was no other murders because he got extradited to France.
Do you know why he
Holy
got
fuck.
arrested when the Ripper murders stopped?
What's going on?
Wanking in public.
Pee Wee Herman. Oh no, he did that in the movie theater, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it's
Nearly
not
did a
public.
Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Was it actually Pee Wee Herman or the guy who
The
played Pee
actor.
Wee Herman?
Yeah, the guy,
Yeah, well,
the guy that played him, not the character
He was
portrays.
he was a playable character in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which was weird because that was only
Francis
2 years ago.
Tumblety.
No,
You could just
Pee Wee Herman. But yeah,
Yeah, that sounds odd.
I literally just rolled onto these on like Up Next on YouTube today.
Yeah.
And because obviously Vic had talked about it, and obviously like the hard thing about doing these podcasts is that you're reading an account of an account of an account. So you're kind of like
Chinese
reading
whispers.
someone's opinion on something. But like everything that Vic said was completely like, yeah. And it was really strange that like he was known for collecting uteruses. And he was also basically, from what I got from the video, he wasn't an actual doctor. he used to sign his name as if he was a doctor. So he'd write ND at the end, which I believed meant like a prescription. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
So this guy, and he also was known for using pseudonyms and pen names. So like he would, when he moved from town to town, he would write different names. Like he had a collection, and they were all like extravagant artist names, like alliterated, like Alan Arnshaw, or I don't know where that one came from, but so that guy for me, like, I didn't do enough research on him, but I watched enough to like his history was really strange. But after, he was also apparently obviously he had to be a closet homosexual, but one of the main reasons he moved to France was because he in France they just made it legal to have sex with people of the same sex.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His name was John Littlechild, is what his real name was.
The Francis guy. Well, he actually, so he after France, he moved back to, I believe it was Wisconsin, and he died. Yeah, he died in Wisconsin.
It was believed that he committed suicide at the time the Ripper murders came to an end.
You see, that's what it's believed to be, but apparently he went back to America and died. I think it was quite a while afterwards. I don't believe it was. Yeah, he died afterwards.
So I'm looking on the jacktheripper.org suspects list, and with this Tumblety one, it's interesting because they even say that he has a fairly weak case. Like, there's no evidence that he was ever violent, a view which even Littlechild concurred, as in his letter to Sims he states that Tumblety was not known as a sadist, which the murderer unquestionably was. And then they say, moreover, there's no concrete evidence that he ever visited Whitechapel, and he most certainly bore no resemblance to the descriptions given by those who may have seen the face of the killer. That's fucking interesting, and it goes to show how connected even the weakest of suspects, yet they still sound compelling to some degree.
It's like, I feel it's like one of those. It's one of those like Prince Albert ones. It's very like, it's a nice idea that some foreigner came from America, because at the time, obviously, our links with America were there because obviously we're the first neighbouring, apart from Ireland, we're the first neighbouring over the Atlantic Ocean,
and we've got the Civil War that's kind of
exactly, and it's a nice kind of connection, but the main thing which you would think of is the uterus thing, like
right, yeah, like. That's
so he
macabre, man.
he was apparently going around academic, I don't know what it would be, biology universities and stuff. He was actually saying that he was testing something to do with uteruses. That's the reason why he was collecting them. He was testing like a neurological link between mother and, but obviously that might have just been a guise, or that might just be a falsity that has come because of the thing.
And so but he had medical history then.
But that's what they were saying. They were saying that like he does have some history in medicine, not medicine, but like dissections and yeah. I just find that a really strange one. Like, immediately if like they were removing uteruses. Right, you'd go to the guy who collects uteruses, even just to ask him for information. Just like, you're a uterus expert.
So, have you collected any uteruses recently?
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Also,
I've got 5.
I don't. Like you see these like people who collect like dead babies in jars and dead like limbs and stuff. What the fuck does visually? What is a dead uterus? Surely it's just a jar full of gunk. Like I'm not. That sounds like I'm just like, oh yeah, uterus, just a jar of gunk. But like this guy collected them. Apparently, he had a vast collection of uteruses.
That's fucking
but my thing in my head was,
only the Japanese Mercedes.
Apparently, like, well, in my mind, if he'd come over from America, surely he did, because he was of money as well. You wouldn't be like, how many suitcases? Yeah, just 2 for my clothes, and then 5 suitcases of uterus jars. Like, And that's the thing. They didn't have the internet then, did they? So it wasn't like, oh, I heard that guy collects uteruses. Somebody must have known something about him collecting uteruses.
Speaking of cutting out uteruses, our next suspect is Thomas Cutbush.
Segway.
Thomas Cutbush was named as Jack the Ripper in a series of articles appeared in the Sun newspaper, a very reliable source, the Sun newspaper.
Maybe back in the day, not now.
No, never was, and never will be. Never by the Sun.
Hate the Sun.
I mean, one of the first articles was from the Star, which is even less reputable than the Sun.
So
they run the story. Freddie Star ate my hamster.
Other than the really poor surname or unfortunate surname, is there any reason of him being linked to being Jack the Ripper then?
No, there's a great deal. It apparently was around at the right time, but no. I just wanted to mention him because he's had a funny name, and it leads us on to...
Your suspect?
No.
Oh.
Aaron Kosminski. The one that apparently there was DNA evidence for Aaron Kosminski.
Oh, okay. Is this the one that is linked to the shoal after all these years?
Yeah, but then a lot of suspects have been linked to that shoal, including my suspect.
Okay,
right.
But yeah.
Just before, and I know we're trying to keep this like in our boundaries, right? Which is usually around 3 hours. So the next video after this one, Francis so-and-so, led me onto this terrible podcast that I was telling you about before. But it linked me onto this artist guy. And I don't know if this is your suspect. Am I right in thinking this is your suspect, Ben? The guy who bought all of the Ripper, he was an artist. He painted loads of pictures of the Ripper's
my guy was
victims.
A by trade.
I can't remember this guy, so it's probably pointless speaking about him, but I will find it while we're talking about it. He was obsessed with the Ripper murders to the point where, this was like maybe 10, 15 years afterwards, he was buying items on the black market of the Ripper's stuff. And that's the only reason this shawl thing, is it the author who bought this shawl thing? Is this the same thing? The cardigan thing, the neckerchief, and it had the only DNA evidence, but it wasn't noted by the police. It's the only bit of evidence that probably should have been evidence.
Well, it turns out when we get onto mine, I'll go into it more. But that shawl, that was cut up into a few different pieces and sold to different people.
Right.
And 3 or 4 people actually have that shawl, and DNA, everything is preserved. It is definitely the same shawl, 3 pieces.
Well, that's fascinating.
And each bit has different DNA from different people on it.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah.
Apparently it's got sperm stains on.
Yeah, it's got and that's where Aaron Kosminski comes in. Apparently Aaron Kosminski's sperm was on this shawl.
And did they find that out from DNA testing, like his ancestors, or
in 1987, I think?
Yeah, I was going to say it was more our time, because the person who bought it again was another guy who was obsessed with it. But there was also another author who basically, she was a multi-million selling author, and she just sacked it all off to study Jack the Ripper. And I can't remember it, and I need to find. I'll send you the. In fact, I'll find it while you guys are talking about this.
So for the listeners and stuff like that, there was a shawl of one of the victims through the years that was found, and they DNA tested. Obviously, the semen that was still on the shawl. When you say shawl, it's like a skirt or a throw over sort of thing.
Scarf.
I think it was Catherine Eddowes. I think that was who the shawl belonged to. From what? Oh, right, I am. Yeah. I remember that being sort of publicised, I think, in the early 2000s, that story sort of... And that was really exciting at the time, but then that got sort of... I think some police officer, some crime investigator or ex-crime investigator had been asked, and he just kind of flattened any sort of future legitimacy or ideas towards it, where he was just like... it was a shawl that belonged to a prostitute, so it's probably got hundreds of DNA samples of sperm all over it, which is not correct. It's like, oh, it had Aaron Kosminski's on there. Oh, no surprise. Like, yeah, and it was quite disappointing, but totally logical.
Because Kosminski was a lunatic, basically. He was just a bit of a wild man.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of evidence that proves that it was him, but there was a lot of prejudices, which we've talked about earlier in the podcast, is that he was Jewish and also Eastern European. So he was a Polish Jew, and he just happened to be in Whitechapel. He was at the top of a lot of the coppers, and a copper is British word for policeman.
Yeah.
A lot of their lists.
Wasn't he? Didn't he have a big problem though with prostitutes? Wasn't he known as like abusing women? If I remember,
loved brass. He did love brass.
Okay.
But I think he may.
Well, he had a hatred for them.
I believe that he had 50 cases of abuse against him. Are we talking about?
Really?
Are we talking about leather apron?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. No.
Cool.
But I think he may have been in a mental asylum at the time of the murders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that kind of rules him out a bit.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we researched every single minor detail about every single suspect, this would be
but there's a few that you
four-parter.
kind of get bits up here and there that you know, right? So, and then bringing us on to the final suspect that probably wasn't him, but was a main one.
Yeah,
Leather Apron.
JJ, Leather Apron. So is that who your suspect is? Or you were talking about Leather Apron?
No, he knew Leather Apron was. Leather Apron was definitely not the suspect.
Right.
He was a suspect. It wasn't him. He basically was just a local nutter that went around pulling out knives on women and threatening to rip them apart.
Yeah, and let's be honest as well, he is clearly the result of prejudice. Like, his artist depiction from back then is horrific. Like,
what would make you say that, Dean?
Oh, no, it's just the most cliche 4chan depiction of what a Jew should look like. About Leather Apron.
It's because he literally they even the police I think had an investigation about them for saying it was prejudice because they made him look like, not because of this, but they made him look like Fagin. Like his nose literally comes out like that, and he's got a bowler hat on, but his bowler hat is lower than his head could physically be. So he's got this bowler hat and this like side profile of this long nose that comes out. I've literally just gone past it on this thing trying to find this author who's obsessed with him.
And once again, it goes back to the fact that in the 1889, 90s, 1890s, there was so much prejudice against Eastern Europeans and Jewish people that they would just put them forward for it straight away. And Leather Apron was just a guy that walked around the streets.
So yeah, let me just quickly read the small paragraphs we've got of him anyway. In early September 1888, police inquiries amongst the local prostitutes turned up a potential suspect in the form of a sinister character whom the local streetwalkers had nicknamed Leather Apron. Apparently, this man was known to try to extort money from them by pulling out a knife, threatening to rip them apart unless they handed over what cash they had made in the course of the nighttime activities. Thus began the hunt for Leather Apron, a hunt that would end on the 10th of September 1888 when Sergeant William Thick arrested John Pizer, also spelt Piser, maintaining that he was the man known in the district as Leather Apron. However, Pizer had alibis for the nights of the two most recent murders and was soon ruled out as a suspect. Exactly. So, yeah. Okay, so have you got any more last ones, or are you going on to... Oh, go on. I want to know who yours is.
Do you want me to go? Shall I go?
Yeah, you go, dude. I want to know what yours is. I'm so curious.
I believe that Jack the Ripper. Oh, I did miss out another one, but I want to go to him at the end because I think actually, when I've done my research, I've realised that actually my Ripper suspect probably did a couple of them, and the rest were done by someone else. Anyway,
go on then.
I think that Jack the Ripper was Frederick Deeming.
Oh, okay. I'm interested about this because there's not a lot about him from what I'm looking at.
Right. So the reason he was I'm going to tell you why he was ruled out as
Okay.
as the Ripper at the time, because a lot of the police thought it was him. He was ruled out because apparently it was in Hull prison, but on closer inspection, he wasn't in Hull prison because someone who shared an alias that Frederick Demon used to use was in Hull prison, but it wasn't him.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
if you go to the Scotland Yard Museum of Crime, they have a a death mask of Frederick Deming.
They do? I've got to
Yes.
see this.
They do have a and they call it the death mask of Jack the Ripper. They said that is the face of Jack the Ripper. So even the police then thought he was Jack the Ripper.
Jeez, he's got the most square jaw I have ever seen in my
He
life.
fits the bill visually, right?
Whoa.
And again, he had the mustache.
He did.
Although the picture
crazy.
I've seen of him is like he's got like a chiseled jaw and he's like he's a handsome guy. He wouldn't have to pay for prostitutes.
Didn't need to because he was killing them.
All right. Okay.
Oh, zing.
Again, it goes back to the GTA method.
Yeah.
You have sex with him and then take your money back.
Yeah. Born in
Take
Ashby de la
take
Zouch,
your money back.
Leicestershire. Frederick Deeming was a plumber by trade, but he ran away to sea at 16 years old, and afterwards began a long career of crime. So, like, Frederick Deeming was a blooming career criminal, to say the least. He
Really?
was just, man. He would just fake it till you make it, baby.
Wow.
JJ's looking at his phone like
So,
just found out something.
yeah.
Actually, no. Actually, Frederick was a liar. In fact, he just loved school.
So, of the victims that people claimed he'd taken, 4 of them were kids.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. That's outside of the Ripper murders.
Oh, okay.
And two
But
of those
I'm presuming
two
none
of
of them.
kids are his own.
Right, so I'm presuming that the other 2 out of the 6 people that I'm guessing were convicted for. I mean, how many times did this guy get let out of prison?
Man, this guy killed a lot of people.
It says he only 6.
He did the Ripper murders before he even got caught he was even a suspect on a crime.
Okay, so he could have potentially
So the Ripper murders happened before he killed his wife and his kids, and then moved to Melbourne, and then killed his wife and his kids.
these guys, like, how do they, like, especially going back to the first episode, it's Victorian England. They have to spend 20p to sleep on a post. This guy's just going to Australia. Like, how?
What?
Like, it must take about 4 months to get there. Like,
if you just go, I want to come and work on your boat. This boat's going to Australia. You just go.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like he was known for impersonating aristocracy, which leads you to the victim that every time they said he was aristocracy. He had smart clothes. He had a mustache. Yeah. It all lines up for him being fucking Jack the Ripper. Like,
get this.
There you go. JJ's agreeing with me for once.
I mean, I am agreeing with you. I always agree with both of you.
Normally it's like, but
he claimed insanity because the court had deemed that he'd caught syphilis in London. He was probably having gay sex with fucking Albert.
They did.
Yeah, maybe exactly. Again, going back to the Scream murders. There's always 2 of them. They're all connected.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Demon, man. His movements at many stages of his career are obscure, but it appears that he may have been in England in late 1888, the time of the Whitechapel murders. Melbourne's waxworks in 1912 probably reflect widespread public opinion when it depicted the wax of Deming burying Malva. Commenting that he was suspected, he was identical to Jack the Ripper.
It's like I look at him And
you like that guy fucking did it, right?
man, he just looks like he would be a fucking menace, doesn't he? You just look at him, just like bottom jaw out, eyes wide, like
so.
Off his nut and eckies.
Weren't me.
Right. So whilst in custody, he also confessed to having. Right. This is in custody for killing his second wife. Right. Whilst in custody, he also confessed to having murdered his first wife, Mary James, at their house in Rainhill, Merseyside. Bear in mind, this guy lived
fucking
in
got around.
Birkenhead. Which is a fucking shithole.
This is a link again with the Francis Tumblety thing, because they were saying that he was also living in Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
So maybe they're aliases.
Yeah.
Bloody Scousers. Okay, we're not getting monetized.
So during the time he confessed to murdering his first wife, he also confessed to carrying out several of the Whitechapel murders. When the news of the latter confession broke, the English papers began exploring the possible connections to the crimes, and several began comparing his description to those given by various witnesses who may have seen Jack the Ripper. One such paper illustrated the Illustrated Police News. Basically, like, they just illustrate pictures of him, and it looks exactly.
And it just it would come close to him.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, he does resemble the most cliche gentleman in the 19th century or 1880, but everybody almost looked the same back then, didn't they? So really,
he was the only. Or there's not. He claims to have killed 9 women in Whitechapel. So,
and it wouldn't surprise me that there
Emma
would be
Smith, Martha Tabram, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. And Alice Mackenzie and
but being a psychotic serial killer that just owns up and just goes, oh, by the way, I killed her as well. Like those people, they like to gloat about, oh yeah, I did that. Like just to take notoriety for it, you know?
Yeah, and if he did have syphilis, apparently it causes mental problems.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a good suspect, to be honest. Do you have another one?
Bear in mind, he then fled to Australia and then killed a whole bunch of other
Another
people.
family.
So he killed his wife in Liverpool, went to Whitechapel, did a bit there. All the Jack the Ripper murders, and then I could give you a timeline if you want.
I absolutely love the fact that Ben's so excited about it. He's got this uplit thing on his face. And you could literally be the killer. You're the descendant of this guy.
Well, that leads me on to the next fact, is that I did my family tree. I am actually his great. He
nearly had me in there.
Oh, that'd have been so good.
Well, I've not done it, but I could be. You never know. So he married in 1981. He married Miss Mary James at St Paul's Church, Higher Tranmere. Went alone to Australia, joined by his wife in 1982. In 1984, numerous bank robberies took place in Sydney, the perpetrators not being detected. In 1985, more robberies, burglaries, mysterious disappearances and tragedies. In 1986, set up shop in a large way, perpetrates a fraudulent bankruptcy and absconds from Sydney. In 1987, flies from Adelaide to Cape Town after it is stated robbing 2 brothers whom he met of 60 litres. What?
Of 6
88, nothing known of him. During this year, 6 of the Whitechapel murders. In 88, nothing known of him. So that, he disappears.
Before then, yeah.
So 87, everyone knows who he is. He's a fucking nightmare. 88, 6 Whitechapel murders. 89, passes in Durban as a mining engineer going to Johannesburg. In 89, advance to him. Loads of money is given to him in Durban on bogus deeds.
Right.
About the same time, 2 murders were committed in Transvaal. The murderer escaping. That's near where he was.
Fuck me, he's put on a tour.
The 8th Whitechapel murder. 89, the 9th Whitechapel murder.
Yeah.
In September of 1889, he turned up unexpectedly in fucking Birkenhead.
What? What's
So
he
he's
doing?
the-
How is he getting around so easy?
In October, he's tracked by a private detective who wants him for the Transvaal robberies and murders to Camberwell, then to Stockton-on-Tees, back again to London. November, fucks off to Australia. At this point, Demon took the alias of Harry Lawson.
I just want to make a point here. Stockton-on-Tees was the first actual railway station in Britain.
Oh, factual evidence. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, JJ.
So that's probably why. He only had one place he could go to that was in England.
Only go to Stockton-on-Tees.
He could only go there.
So he's taken the name of Harry Lawson, and then he's arrived in Beverley, Australia. Married
Oh,
to
not Beverly Hull.
No.
Oh wait, no,
Oh,
Beverly
wait.
Hull. No, it was Beverly Hull.
Oh wait, was it?
He
I was gonna say because that's a long fucking distance. He got on a train in Stockton-on-Tees and ended up in Australia.
So Harry Lawson, he's changed his name to Harry Lawson.
Yep.
He's left Birkenhead because everyone should.
Right. Everyone should.
And I'm not maligning those of Birkenhead, but
Okay.
he arrives in Beverly Hull, which is not much better. Marries Miss Harrison a fortnight afterwards.
pretty
Obtains
nice.
jewelry by false pretenses in Hull. He's going, that's my jewelry. Is it? Yeah. Gives it to him.
Okay.
I was lying, but I got
Thanks.
it.
Yeah. Cheers for
He
that.
sails then, he gets to Southampton, sails from Southampton to South America, arrested at Montevideo, gets taken back to Hull in October. He's
At that
sentenced to
point,
9
I would-
months in prison. And then liberated from Hull. So someone has
Liberated from Hull.
prison. And then he murders someone called Miss Langley in Preston,
Oh, not Miss Langley.
and then escapes. And then he assumes the alias of Albert Oliver Oliver Williams. He makes an appearance at Rainhill to inquire about Dinham Villa and takes up residence at the commercial hotel. Has tea at the hotel with a lady who turns out to be his wife, Mrs. Deeming of Birkenhead.
Where have you been for the last fucking 10 years?
Now this is in a week.
Yeah, all right.
This is only July of the year that he went to South America.
Fucking
Right.
hell. This is crazy.
Right.
A
So
well-travelled
July-
cunt.
Yeah, he is. He lunches at the hotel with his wife, is afterwards accompanied to Houghton by Miss Mather, not his wife, and signs the agreement of tenancy. The first barrel of cement supplied by St. Helens to Dinham Villa to the order of Miss Mather. Mrs. Deeming and 4 children arrive at Dinham Villa. The
What is-
then all of them are murdered. So his wife shows up at the villa that he's just brought with Miss Mather. He kills his entire family over the next 2 days, and then he goes back to the hotel.
For anyone who's just tuning in, this isn't Ben just reading all of Wikipedia, or writing his latest novel.
Fucking
On
hell.
July so he's killed his family July 26th to July 27th. He returns to the hotel. 3 days later, obtains 2 more barrels of cement.
What are you reading?
I'm just
What
reading.
in
No, I'm reading Demon, man. This is what
Oh,
makes
right.
me think it was him. Right. So he sat. Right. So he's got a new
Did
wife
he have
now.
time for the murders?
Yeah. No, he's done that. These happened 3 years ago. This is 3 years later.
Fucking.
So now
Swimming
he
across the-
marries. Now he marries Miss Emily Mather, the one that helped him do the murders. Murders.
What the Ripper murders?
No, the murders of his family, the Deeming
right.
family.
The other Ripper murderers.
Right. So he's married her in Rainhill.
Fuck me.
So he's killed 5 members of his own family. So 2, his wife and 4 kids. He's killed them. He's now, him and his new wife have now sailed from London to Australia.
And liberated from Hull.
Yeah. So they're now in Melbourne.
Right.
And then, so that's November. And now they've moved into the new house as Williams.
Okay.
Williams is their new name now. And then he kills his wife on
Surprise!
Christmas Eve. She's dead.
Fucking hell.
So then he changed his name to Swanston. And in 1892, he applied for another wife in Melbourne.
He applied.
Applied.
Yeah, I think.
Serial killer looking for new wife to spend.
Yeah, like that
Time in the park.
That man has killed a lot of people. And
Yeah.
two wives, 4 kids. Right.
It sounds like people applying for the bass player job in Mayhem. They're just like, hey, do you want to join Mayhem? All of our previous bass players have been murdered. Do you want to be the new bass player? Why, sure I do.
Yeah, that sounds like a great job for me. Yeah.
What? So
I can
is it
play the bass.
So with these murders, right? If that's written in this, are there any significance to the killings?
Well,
in
they
like
compared his handwriting to that of the From Hell letter,
And they also did that. They did that with Francis Tubblety as well. They did. They said that his handwriting was undeniably the guy who wrote that letter. But
so it's,
if we were to look at
they
old,
line up as the same guy, right?
yeah,
Demon Tumblety.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And
I
and
agree with that.
his actual footpath, like his geographical footpath, is very similar. And for a guy who's just like, oh yeah, so apparently he was just a gas fitter, right? Like he's just a corgi registered gas fitter. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm just traveling the world, like killing people, fucking women, making kids, and then killing them. You know, like
it's an hard life being a plumber.
yeah. Well,
look at Mario and Luigi. They never did they?
Yeah, he's more of a Wario, though, isn't he?
Wario.
Wario.
There is so much evidence that links Demon to the Whitechapel murders, and before and after that, he did not stop killing.
Yeah,
Like, the Whitechapel was he was in Whitechapel, so he killed, and then he was in Birkenhead and he killed. Then he was in Rain Hill and he killed, and then he got a new wife. He went
He killed
all the way to Australia, and then he killed her. And then he changed
it is
his
a
name,
bit
but
wonky,
then it all gets a bit. He disappears. Like he changed his name. No one knows what he changed his name to. But he probably killed his wife.
Yeah,
and
probably.
the next wife and the next wife.
And then he became the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah, and then
You're no closer to catching me now than you were 20 years ago. All right,
man.
dads, chill out. Fucking hell.
But yeah,
So
JJ's dad isn't the Yorkshire Ripper.
The Yorkshire
no. And if he is, he still's no closer to being caught than he was 20 years ago. He's just chilling out down road, enjoying retirement.
So
Yeah.
Demon
Sorry.
is your absolute like
Demon.
100%.
Yeah, he does, but except for one.
Who's that?
Except for Mary Kelly.
Just as a quick one here. From what I've gathered from the research that I've done solely today, is that so many people just kind of went, yeah, my name's John Barrett. All right, cool. All right, Barrett. All right. And then he goes to the next pub. All right, Barrett, you owe us 5 shillings for the last week's tab. And he's just like,
not John Barrett.
my name's not John Barrett. Yeah, exactly.
Everyone just got different
Fuck
names.
you guys, I'm going to Australia. And then he fucks off to
I'm
Australia.
in Australia. My name is Patrick
Jim.
Speaker.
It's Patrick Speaker.
I just like how you look to the nearest thing and you went, Speaker.
Well, I'm going to South America. My name is Guitar
Avocado.
Can.
Is this what lockdown has done to you two?
Yeah,
Jesus
we're
Christ.
gone insane.
All right, should we get to my suspect then?
Dean.
Yeah, just to let you know, Dean, as well.
Yeah,
We're only nearly 2 hours into it.
Yeah, I have also got to eat dinner yet as well. But before we get to my suspect,
Me
I'm gonna have a little
too.
break because I need to piss really badly. So
And that
bear
leaves
with
me and JJ in front of the cameras again.
You know can we reenact the scene out of Bill and Ted where they're falling through hell? Want to play 20 questions? Oh, you don't know it. Oh, great.
No, I was just going.
No. So I read a little bit about that dude, and I was just like, he sounds so similar to Tumblety. Like it basically sounds like
the same guy.
Yeah, I think so. Because when I watched the Tumblety video, there was talk about the H.H. Holmes connection.
Yeah.
And they've said again, H.H. Holmes couldn't have possibly done it because he wasn't in England at the time.
No.
But from what I've learned about Victorian England, their records aren't that great. Like they're not very good. Like they're like, where are you going? What's your name?
Yeah.
What's your name? Where are you going? I'm going to Australia. All right, what's your name? John Tumblety? Okay, we'll call you John Williams because I don't know how to spell Tumblety. So they're just like,
what is it? There's a name that comes up all the time as a Ripper suspect that I've totally ignored because of this fact.
Baxter.
No, it's Cassus or Casus.
Okay.
So there's a name that they used to give to immigrants.
So they would give you names based on either your ethnicity or your. So like apparently that's where Pommy comes from, because like when they used to do like tags on. I'm sure somebody on the Discord will be like, no, Pommy comes from here, but that's just where the closest thing I can go to. So like they used to call all Irish people something like Murphy or something like that. They used to say, and that's where the name comes from, because when you went to, so if you go on ancestry.com, if your name was so and so, you would just be tagged with, like, somebody would be like, oh, it's Joe Jackson, and they'd be like, oh yeah, and they'd just call you something because it sounds like or is something like, and they would take out words and take out letters and stuff that would be like, and that's probably where all this traveling stuff comes from. So they're just like, oh well, yeah, let's just call him that. Especially these guys who travel around. The one thing that's peculiar with these is these guys who can, like, I can't fucking just get on a ship to Australia now and just, because it's all like governed a lot better.
But if you were just like a working guy, then you could just jump on. You go, oh, I'll come and work on your.
What you were saying before.
It's like, I guess it's kind of like a bit like touring thing. Well, I'll come and do merch. Like, yeah, and you just jump on that tour.
Who's that guy? Oh, I don't know. He's just my mate's mate.
Doing merch. And that's so a lot of people, they would come into the UK and because they couldn't be bothered to go like, oh, Kosminski, they write it down. They would just write down a shortened version of that, or just any surname, and that's how.
Yeah, because it wasn't like it was exactly on an Excel sheet, was it? It wasn't like, oh, where are you from? Oh, yes, and there we go. And then you fucking everything about you is up on there.
Yeah, and
so you could literally just go around. Like, if anyone could go back in the time machine now, you could just go back and kill someone, and no one would know about it. You know?
Yeah. So if you do want to go back in Cohen, that's it. So if you were Eastern European and Jewish, or Eastern European or Jewish, they would just give you the name Cohen. So it was David Cohen was another suspect, and I think he might actually be Leather Apron. Leather Apron was David Cohen, aka Nathan Kaminsky.
Kaminsky, yeah, that's right.
Kaminsky, not Kominsky. So yeah, they would just give Cohen as the name for.
Yeah, because it was basically again like a bit of a racial slur.
Yeah.
Like people would just be like, oh, Jimmy, and they were like, what Kaminsky? Oh no, it's Cohen. Yeah. Going to butch, because it sounded more British. Like we were just saying Dean there that like back in the day they used to, well, it's still now like in certain elements like give people shortened names because they can't be bothered giving them their exactly. So we were saying how easy it was just to travel from place to place and just be like change your name and be like
there was a ID card.
There was a footballer for Canvey Island Football Club they used to call Dizzy because he was a Polish dude and they couldn't pronounce his surname, so just called him Dizzy, and it was like Diskunchurikdovich or something odd.
Well, they did. They still do it now on like on.
Yeah.
They do it on like UFC and everything. Like there's Korean Zombie. His name's too complicated to pronounce, so they just call him. And his actual name on the scoreboard is Korean Zombie. Yeah, because his name's got so many X's and Y's in it. You can't, you know.
Well, like Sacha Baron Cohen, very funny comedian. His surname is Cohen.
I'm sorry,
Probably
I'm eating.
because
It's fine, man. You've been at work all day.
Through his, like, if you go through his lineage to when his parents came to England, he probably just given the surname Cohen.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
probably
Because
given,
they
yeah.
couldn't be bothered. And it's the same when people came into the US from Ireland. Ireland. He's not Bono, he's rubbish.
He's not Bono, he's rubbish.
Oh, no, it's pretty sure.
That's what we
Feels
found
wrong.
out. My surname was given to us because my ancestors salted fish,
Oh,
and my surname's Salter.
ah.
Not very exciting, but
Yeah, it's a lot more exciting than my name. I'm just son of Jack.
oh right.
Son of
But going on to it,
Son of
like
Jack is rubbish.
I used to cheers, mate. I used to go to school with a guy called Nick Mohammed Faris Fativ, and his name was only Nick Mohammed, because that means son of. So Nick the son of Faris Fativ. But he said his granddad's name was just Nick Mohammed Fativ. So like over the generations, they just added like little bits. So it's like Nick Mohammed Faris Fativ. So he's like the son of Faris Fativ. It's just fucking weird. But just going back onto Sacha Baron Cohen, he would hate what we're doing right now because he doesn't like false news or anything alternative. Because even though he promotes that kind of
humor,
that humor, which is it's annoying.
I enjoy what we're doing because we are making light of.
Yeah, he's worried about false news, right? So for anybody who's listening on the podcast, don't worry. Dean's having a lasagna.
He's having a lasagna.
It looked like a lasagna, but I think it might have been a nice sandwich.
It was a Wendy's burger.
Oh, baby!
So, guys, I deleted all the takeaway apps on my phone. And do you know what? By deleting those apps, I don't want a takeaway. It's the same as deleting social media. That is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't. I collected all of them.
But yeah, I sent JJ all my login details, and
and I got them all.
Right.
They don't deliver from Southend.
Deleting those apps actually works. I deleted Facebook. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I never go on Facebook. I deleted Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eat, Papa John's, and I have like normally I'm like, oh, what can I order? What can I order? Any time of the day, I'm constantly like going, oh, I could probably order a coffee or something right now. I have it didn't even
no
enter
thought
my
about
brain
it anymore.
all day. Didn't enter my brain. If I had those apps on my phone, I would have ordered a coffee. I would have ordered food now to eat. Right now
you're going to go on Twitter. You're going to go on Twitter and Instagram, and you're going to get Deliveroo, Uber Eats ads, and everything, and then you're going to download it again.
No, I'm not, because I don't have those apps on my phone either. Because
I have a wife that is demanding my company because I haven't seen her all day.
Tell her that we need to get to the bottom of this Jack the Ripper.
Well, we're
crime.
about to. We're about to, because do you want to hear my suspect?
Yeah.
Right. My suspect.
Well, I did. I don't want to anymore. Now I know you don't want to be around us.
I need to try and convince you now, though, JJ. So
he's convinced that he's Frederick Demon right now.
Oh, okay. Well, my one is Charles Cross. Okay, he was born in Soho in 1849 to his father, John Allen Lechmere, and his mother,
Father gave birth
Marie Louis. I'm reading the parents here. Father, John Allen Lechmere, Maria Louisa Lechmere. Following her husband's death, Marie married police constable Thomas Cross, and although Charles continued using the name Lechmere, he for some reason chose to give his name as Cross when he reported the fact that he had found the body of Mary Ann Nichols. Okay?
Coincidence?
Right, no, I'm going to go through a lot of stuff from here anyway. So I spent a lot of time researching my suspect because I'm so adamant it's him. So, Charles Cross fits the suspect, well, at least the suspect that the Whitechapel murders were identified as by the Metropolitan Police. So he had to be a local man, had to be unremarkable, like a normal person as well, be able to sort of blend into the environment, have good reason to be out at the time that the murders were committed, a troubled background, and around the age of 35 and 40, because that was what the witness testimony led the police to believe as to how old he possibly could have been. Just why was it Charles Lechmere? Sorry, I've got bullet points here. I was that organised with it. He was found at the second Ripper victim, Mary Ann Nichols, and as well, the coroner said that it was astonishing that a killer could have escaped performing the actions that he had at the time. So, when it happened, August 31st, 1888, 3:15 a.m., Police Constable Neil passed the murder site on his regular beat, reporting nothing untoward and that the street was deserted. At both ends of Bucks Row, 2 policemen passed every single hour. There were also a handful of night watchmen within earshot of the street, and early paper reports suggested that on the first day of the public inquest, PC John Neal had reportedly discovered the body at 3:45. Okay, so Bucks Row. Oh, I like the that smoke effect.
Bit of it.
So sorry, yeah, for the people listening. Sorry, JJ's just done his Tonight Matthew. I'm going to be impression.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recreate Victorian England.
There
Sorry.
we go. Right. So something small about Bucks Row as well. It's a very long, narrow street and has not changed to this day to then how it looked in 1888. Like the size of that street is exactly the same as it was back then. It was overlooked by terraces and there's no immediate escape routes. So there's an entrance in and an out. There's no way of escaping if you're halfway down the street. You've got to go out one way and out the other. Okay, so early papers I read that part. The next day, after it was first reported that the killings had happened, the next day, a newspaper interview with Robert Paul, who had claimed that he had found the body before the police, and that when he did, there was another man standing over it. To begin with, the public didn't actually know that there was this situation of where witnesses had found the body. But testament to sensational news media and what we were discussing in the first episode, immediately after the inquest, the first day, then this interview with Robert Paul had come out, and that he had claimed there was another person. Sorry, Ben, go on.
Robert Paul just sounds like a made-up name, right?
Right, it's two first names, but
I am Robert Paul.
Anyway,
I'm Robert Paul.
I robbed the Paul.
No, it's fine. My headset's just running out. I'm just swapping headphones.
Oh, okay, right. So then, a day after the interview, this person that Robert Paul claimed he had found the body with appeared at the inquest and gave his name as Charles Allen Cross, and that he worked as a carman or a delivery man. He admitted that he was the first person to find a body. So there's my first discrepancy that leads me to be very, very sus about Charles Allen Cross. So he finds a body with another person. This person goes to the police. Oh, well, he's brought into the inquest. However, the person that found the body in the first place didn't do anything. Just went like didn't contact, didn't go to the papers, didn't say a dicky bird. Anyway, a researcher on Charles Cross had said, like, for someone to disappear after discovery of a body and possible murder inquiry only to then reappear on the second day of the inquest is strange. That there's no two ways about it, that it's weird. That he wouldn't go to the police himself about what he had found. If I'd found a body, I would like to be like, yeah, I'm definitely not involved in this. I will do absolutely anything to prove that I'm definitely not involved in this. I'm going to go and account for it, that I've just discovered a body, blah, blah, blah. But this Charles Allen Cross didn't, and he only did after the fact that his persona was in the paper with this Robert Paul. So it wouldn't have been too long until he had probably said his name and been like, yeah, his name was Charles Cross. And then his name would have been in the paper, and then he would have been brought in as a suspect. Okay.
Sorry, Dean. Did you touch? I missed a large section of that.
Okay.
Did you touch on the fact that his name wasn't that?
Right, we're getting to it. No.
All right. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry. No. I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
No, it's
I
fine.
know.
No,
Yeah. I know. It's just like I didn't hear that.
But I came into this as Charles Cross / Lechmere, I did say. So,
Okay.
Anyway, when he had gone to the inquest, or he had gone to the police after being technically outed as a suspect in the newspapers, he gave his address as 22 Doveton Street at the inquest. Nobody by the name of Cross lived at that address. Now, historians only found that out. The police didn't go and investigate it themselves. Although censuses existed, they did not, and he was the first suspect, and also he only went forward to the inquest after being outed in the paper. He still gives a false name at a false address that he doesn't live at. Two pieces of suspect.
We've all done that.
I've never done it.
Have you? What? Even with a train ticket?
No.
Really?
No, never done it with a train ticket.
I've given to many different people's names.
Oh, I bet you have. But in respect to this, though, like that's two very, very sus sort of mannerisms that.
And you also don't have trains in America, do you? That's one thing I found out. You don't really have trains.
Yeah.
We do have a train
or
line that runs near to us. Or democracy.
I'm joking. All those ballots were counted.
So at the inquest, he's given a name to an address that doesn't connect, that isn't there, that historians found out later. Police Constable Jonah George Misen was on his beat when he encountered Cross. Co-witness Robert Paul had set off to find a policeman, but when the two had seen PC Misen, it was Cross that spoke to him first. So after they found Nichols's body, okay, Robert Paul and Cross have decided to leave and go and find a police officer. Well, it was Robert Paul's idea that he was going to leave. Cross joined him, tagged along immediately, to which then PC Misen, was walking around on his beat just round the corner near Bucks Row, to which Cross has approached him immediately, rushed up to him and started talking about what they had found. So Misen reported at the inquest that Cross had approached him and reported that there was a woman's body in Bucks Row and that another policeman wants you there. Right?
Is that kind of that have you seen that American Family murder thing on Netflix?
Yeah.
When the neighbor goes, he's not acting right.
Yeah, something's wrong with him,
right. It's not really, he did it.
Yeah.
This guy did it.
Yeah. We spoke about that in the last one, didn't we? Like about that guy. Yeah. It's like
so
dodgy.
he's now said to a police officer that at the location of where the body is, that there is another policeman waiting for him.
But
there is no other police. There wasn't. There was himself and Robert Paul. So Misen reported at the inquest that Cross had approached him and told him this, and as though merely passing on a message, he let the two men go. So without any suspicions or anything like that, PC Misen was just like, on your way, lads. I'll make my way to where this location is. Miraculously, at a stroke of absolute luck, PC John Neal was at the body when Misen arrived. So Lechmere, or Cross, had approached Misen and told him there's another police officer. We've just found a body. I've been told, like, you're the first copper I found. There's another policeman there. He wants to see you. And miraculously, there happens to be another policeman there. But Robert Paul has always sat there and said, well, no, it was just me and him that were observing the body. So if PC Neal had not arrived, Cross would have been, without a doubt, the suspect. If that policeman wasn't there and Misen arrived at the body, to which he'd have gone, well, where's this other policeman? You'd have aroused suspicions without shadow of a doubt, wouldn't you? You'd have been like, fuck it, you get back here. Like, there's definitely something wonky about that. So in 2005, amateur sleuths, ripperologists, decided to look hey, there we go. Zing, put that on your bingo card. In 2005, amateur sleuths decided to look into the history of Charles Allen Cross and discovered his real identity. There wasn't a Charles Cross living at 22 Doveton Street, but a Charles Allen Lechmere was registered there as the head of the family. So, in further investigation, in 1861, census records showed that there was a Charles Allen Lechmere recorded with the surname of Cross instead. This 12-year-old Charles was registered under the family of his stepdad, Thomas Cross. There were 120 official documents and censuses and this, that, the other, chartering the life of the man who gave his name as Charles Cross. However, 119 of these official documents have his name as Lechmere. His name was... Go on.
So this is where we were talking before, like when you went to the toilet. We were saying that the name, I can't remember what the word is for like linealogy or whatever of these people, but it is like, do you have any aunties or uncles that are like, oh, she's called Mary, she's called Mary, she's called Mary, but she's like, she's Mary, she's Moo, she's so and so. Like, so it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean that those are the real names. The one thing that confuses me about these names is like these Eastern European names like Lechmere and stuff like that is they've got British names. So we were saying that when you come to England, they just give you a British name. Like that's one of the, like, so Ben had told me earlier on that he's not seen Titanic. There's a scene in the deleted scenes of all the extended scenes of that, where they're taking the Irish names and the guy says his name and he doesn't understand it. So he calls him like Ian, but it's like I-A-I-N.
That happens in Godfather, that happens in Scarface. That happens in loads of films.
Well,
so this is the difficult part of the noting of that history that becomes like, so you've just said that the son was called Charles, but the dad was called Thomas, right? So it's
yes.
You know,
so that was his
gets so confusing.
Yeah, that was his stepdad. He was a police constable. His mother married again, and his name was Thomas Cross. He was born Lechmere, and as the census records showed on all of those 120 documents that were able to be recovered, he always named himself Lechmere as growing up. Even the family did, even after that they had divorced, right? He then marries into, his mother marries into this second family, the PC Constable Thomas Cross. He then is registered this address as Charles Allen Cross or whatnot, as the stepdad of Thomas Cross. But yet, all the rest of it was Lechmere. So he's going by the name of Lechmere, but then he lies to a police officer and says that his name's Cross. Why would you do that? Why would you lie?
That was the big thing that the thing that I read was the big thing that, like, this whole time in the, let's like break it down to the incident, he said, oh, it's just Cross, it's Cross. And the thing we were talking about before was about like about not trying to be, you want to be in that country, but you don't want to be alienated by your peers. So you would say that you had a name like Cross.
Right, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
so like you're like, oh, my name's, I think there's a part in Four Lions where he talks about it. He's just like, what's your name? And he's like something Smith or whatnot.
Oh yeah. No, it's
because you don't want your peers to think that you're from an ethnic background. So you would be like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and you did like you have it all the time. Like I tattooed a Muslim guy and he wrote his name down, and I was like, oh, all right, cool. Like in my mind, it didn't matter, but then the person who I had working on my desk at the time, he was just like, oh, that was a strange name for that kind of guy. And I was like, yeah, it was, but you don't think about it, but that's,
I understand what you're saying as well.
It's like an integration thing, right? So
and as well,
I don't know.
Probably, sorry, Ben.
I admit there are a lot of reasons for him to be the killer at this scene, but what evidence is there to link him to the other murder?
Well, don't worry, mate. I've got it all here. I have got it all here. I can promise you that. There you go. Turn that frown upside down.
Other murder.
So, interesting thing about Lechmere is the route he takes to work. All right, Lechmere's walk to work had him. Sorry.
Past all the other killings.
Hey, you're just taking the piss.
Hey,
right.
This is a war. This is
Oh, it's a
battle.
war. All right, so okay,
We've got to convince
Lechmere's
JJ,
walk to
who had
work.
no real suspect. We need to get him to on our side, on either one of our sides.
I think he did.
Did he though? Did he? He took the plot of From Hell and then tried.
That is a bad Tommy Cooper impression, by the way. Spoon, Jar Spoon.
You're supposed to drop dead.
Right. He took the plot of From Hell and tried to make it look like evidence. And then when I did my one, he went, "Yeah, that sounds like my killer."
Yeah, but that's true though. I agree with that. Like, I think you stole my idea. That's...
No, I feel like I did some research and you went, "Yeah, that sounds like my research."
I'm gonna do the same when Dean does this, so it's fine.
I can imagine, yeah.
Right, okay.
After he's got past the one
I've got to
killing,
get this finished.
We've got to get him out. Got to get it out.
Got to get out of here. Right. Lechmere's walk to work had him step yards away from Robert Paul's home. The two shared the same route, to which both claimed they saw nobody that morning. If they were truly seconds apart, as their times suggest, they should have met each other well before Bucks Row. Okay, Lechmere left his home at 22 Doveton Street at 3:30 a.m. After finding the body of Nichols, he claimed he was immediately joined by Paul. 16 minutes after he had left his home, Lechmere claims he had discovered the body. However, today the streets are exactly the same, and it takes a mere 7 minutes walk from 22 Doveton Street to the site of Mary Nichols' murder. Right, 3:37 is when Lechmere should have arrived at the murder site. Robert Paul claimed he walked into Bucks Row at the end of the street at 3:45. Lechmere claims he was never alone with the body. However, there is a gap now of 8 minutes between Lechmere arriving in the time it realistically takes to walk and Robert Paul turning into Bucks Row at 3:45, taking at least another minute to arrive to the location of the body. There's a 9-minute discrepancy of the times that are completely and utterly accurate, and that you can work out even today.
9 minutes. 9 minutes is a good discrepancy. Like
fuck. Right? But we're all thinking the same thing.
But like, as JJ's just agreed, 9 minutes. Even today, it's just like, no, there's something wrong there. Right? Okay. So there's a forensics.
9 minutes alone with children.
Right. So he's lied about his name, he's lied about the police officer, and he's lied about being alone with a victim. Oh, JJ is just... Yeah, I'm actually quite impressed at that. If you're not watching this on YouTube... Yes, that is.
I've done it instantly.
Right, JJ's basically made a vagina out of his shirt, and it's actually quite impressive. Yeah. So if you're on YouTube, you've got if you're not on YouTube, you've got a reason to watch.
Switch to YouTube at around 2 hours, too many minutes.
Jesus Christ, I don't think I've ever heard you so pissed when we're recording anyway. Right.
Yeah, you see, this is it. This is it, Dean. Like, the consistency with me being pissed is fine, but Ben Mills being pissed...
Add me into the mix.
I don't even think I can deal with it. I've been with him. There he goes. He's going for a piss again.
Okay, right. Right, here we go. So we're moving on to kind of like the body itself. So Jason Payne James, a forensics physician, assessed the post-mortem, saying there was evidence of manual strangulation through a bruise on the lower part of the jaw on the right side of the face, an incision completely severing all of the tissue down to the vertebrae, and a total of 12 puncture wounds to the abdomen. No organ and skin removal. The event could have lasted no longer than 2 minutes, James claims, that there wouldn't necessarily either be blood anywhere on the victim, resulting in the two people seeing Cross, P.C. Misen and Robert Paul, to not have even raised suspicion, because it was determined that Nichols was strangled before the throat was cut, so there would have been no arterial spray whatsoever if Cross, Lechmere, was in fact performing the murder.
I don't know anything about biology or anything like that, but I still don't think that even if you murder someone, there wouldn't be the flow around the body. Like,
get into that. Hold on.
Get into 2 seasons
right, okay.
of Dexter. I've watched the first 2 seasons of Dexter, and blood spatter everywhere. And I've also watched a lot of CSI Miami, and
watched none of
everywhere. So if there weren't blood, there was semen. And
Sorry, it weren't on TV, so it's not real.
Exactly.
Okay, right. We're moving on to the scene.
Okay, we're there.
Bear in mind, right? We mock, but Dean has got so much more evidence, crime scene evidence in his thing that me and you have combined.
Yeah, because Dean's picked the one that fucking could be the killer. That's what I'm saying.
Baby.
Like I picked the one that was the fucking reptilian. Like of course mine. David Icke might as well have fucking told me mine. Like
I picked the
David Icke might have been like, well, it's obviously the fucking the reptilian prince. God, you picked some fucking jet setter who's just like as he pours a fucking bottle of whiskey into his glass.
Exactly.
My guy was just a fucking. He was a bit.
Murderer.
He was a bit of a. He was a dandy. He was a dandy.
You picked the dandy. I picked the traveller, and he picked the murderer.
Can I finish?
Yes, I know.
I've
You.
out of here as soon as I can.
I know.
If you're listening to this podcast in the future, don't
say anything fucking dumb.
Don't blame him. Don't blame him for this evening.
Ben, shut up. Ready? Right, here we go. All right.
Tuesday,
It's the only way I know
November.
you can get. It's the only way I know I can get to him is just be blunt. Right. Okay, we're going to the scene. Lechmere has claimed that he did not hear Paul approaching until around 30 to 40 yards away.
Are we still on the first one?
I'm going for a week because
I've got one suspect.
No, I mean on the first murder.
Like, I'm getting to it. I'm nearly done, dude.
Okay.
Like, I'm nearly done.
Go on then. Go on. JJ's gone now.
JJ's got his earphones on anyway. So, right. He must have heard Paul. Right. I'm going to start that sentence again anyway. Lechmere claimed that he didn't hear Robert Paul approaching until around 30 to 40 yards down Bucks Row. However, he must have heard Paul being disturbed. The wounds were less extensive, meaning he was stopped. Her skirt was pulled down to cover the abdominal wounds, whereas other victims had their skirts pulled up above their waist. Go on, Ben.
No,
Huh?
I'm agreeing with you on that.
Oh,
bit.
right. So
that makes sense.
Lechmere was given no choice but to cover his attempts and bluff his way out. He had a full minute to consider his options and deal with the witness, Robert Paul, who was slowly approaching. We've got to think about the 9-minute gap that he has got, the fact that you can see all the way down Bucks Row, and at the point of Robert Paul entering the street, he's able to see this witness here.
Bear in mind that is now Whitechapel train station.
It is?
Underground station, yeah.
I was totally oblivious to that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right. Paul leans down to the body after being signalled by Lechmere. He touches the hands, cheeks, checks for breath, touches the chest and the face. Paul testified that he saw no blood, even though he was close enough to test for breathing, like you mentioned. So you were thinking about that.
So that makes me think, right, and this is me leaning into the fact that your guy might be the guy who did this killing.
Right, okay.
She might have not bled out yet.
Right, so Robert Paul then wanted to prop her up, to which Lechmere said he won't touch her and refuses to touch her. And if they'd have moved her, it would have been obvious that her throat had been cut. But they were saying that it was too dark at the time when Robert Paul was checking the body, that he didn't see any blood whatsoever, pushing more testament to Lechmere covering up what he was performing at that moment because he had been disturbed.
Okay.
Right. So Paul says that he would leave to find a policeman, and instead of staying with the body, even though they aren't sure that she's dead or not, although Lechmere probably knows she's dead, Lechmere follows Paul, doesn't stay with the body, to which that sounds rather suspect, that you wouldn't just sit around and wait for someone to come back, or for something maybe this woman isn't actually dead. So Lechmere follows Paul. 2 minutes later, they bump into PC Neil. 2 minutes later, PC Neil finds the body. That is the miraculous police officer that happened to turn up after Lechmere had told PC Misen that there was another police officer waiting. He's the guy that just so happened to be there at the correct time, to which if he wasn't, I still to this day believe that he would have been the prime suspect, and if not found guilty of it. Right. So PC Neal finds the body and notices a pool of blood around the neck, but Paul didn't see blood, so those cuts must have been immensely fresh. Robert Paul reported not seeing any cuts whatsoever, but the fact that PC Neal 2 minutes later discovers the body and notices a pool of blood, that must mean that Lechmere, at that moment of seeing Robert Paul entering Bucks Row, was halfway through performing his slaughter, had noticed that there was a person observing him, and within the minute that he had spare, has dealt with, covered up what he has done. Robert Paul's then assessing the body, wanted to prop her up. If he props her up, her neck opens up, blood goes everywhere. And then it would also start putting even more blood on Lechmere's hands. Okay, so I need to find out. There we go. Yeah, so the blood must have been immensely fresh for when PC Neal turned up, because he said there was a pool around the top of her head from where it had been flowing out of her neck, because they believe that she had been strangled first and then her throat cut and stabbed, to which then there would have been no arterial bleeding. There was nothing going on in the body. Then it would have just gradually and slowly leaked out. All right.
So just to clarify, this one is probably the closest to actually seeing a prime suspect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Am I right in believing that? Like, it's the closest to seeing a prime suspect. So the actual attack and the murder happened.
Yeah. Yes. Possibly.
But with the most visual evidence, apart from the guy who said "go away," the other guy, I can't remember his name, but this isn't the same one.
This one isn't not the same one.
This is suspects coming up straight after the murder, whereas in the other one was just like the guy who apparently got convinced that it was him.
Deitschmier, or whatever his name was.
Yeah. Lechmere was performing. Well, my theory is Lechmere at that time was performing the murder and doing basically looking at tearing her open and throwing everything everywhere, to which Robert Paul, has just turned up down the top back end of Bucks Row, which is the direction Lechmere would have been going in anyway.
Because it's the same street that you said you can only come in one way and leave the other.
And to this day, you can only come in one way or one way out.
Yep. Yeah. So there were no exits. And for PC Neal and Robert Paul, to say that there was no blood where he had just witnessed the body, but within 2 minutes, a police officer's coming round on his beat, looks over and sees a massive pool of blood around her neck. That's just happened. Yeah. That has absolutely just happened. Okay, so
can I shock you?
Go on.
I like wine.
That was a good one.
Out the way. Can I shock you? I genuinely believe that you might be right here with Lechmere.
Yeah.
Killing this one victim of the Ripper. But what evidence is there?
Well, I'm just believe me, it's there.
It's there, is it? Okay. Well,
all right, so
I'm just thinking that there's no evidence. But
Robert Paul sees nobody except Lechmere when he enters Bucks Row, and he could also see beyond Lechmere. So the possibility of another person killing the woman and prior to Lechmere entering the road is incredibly slim. It's like almost impossible. But they can't obviously rule out an impossibility because nobody knows actually who Jack the Ripper was. So Andy Griffiths, who's the ex-murder squad chief from the Metropolitan Police, says that these details and time constraints immediately point to Lechmere committing the crime. In a court of law, it would be he would have immense questions to answer. So there's a few traits about him as a character as well. He has typical serial killer traits. So he fits the profile perfectly. He came from a broken home. We'll go further on that anyway. He was permanently moving home or was known to have several residences. Fathered 12 children.
What the fuck?
He fathered 12 children and, like any serial killer or psychopath, always lived with or was always close to his mother.
He listened to Nirvana.
Wet the
bed. Mother married 3 times, and 2 months before the killing, he moved away, leaving his eldest daughter behind with his mother. And it was never understood as to why he did that. But a lot of psychologists have believed it could have been something traumatic happening between the two of them, and him being so bothered by it that he even left his daughter with his mother. Anyway, Okay, so we're going back to Lechmere now, living Doveton Street. So yeah, his home was in Doveton Street, and the route to work resulted in his journey crossing the path of every single victim of the canonical five. Okay, just a bit too much of a coincidence there. Literally every path that he has to take in at work, and also in connection of a family-based thing that I will eventually get to, all walk over the bodies that were all committed at the right time. Where he
They'd be classed as a trigger. That's what they would call it.
Yes. So
a psychological trigger.
The two shortest routes took 40 minutes to walk to his workplace. Monday to Saturday, Charles would start work at around 4 or 5 a.m. Martha Tabram was killed directly on one of his routes. She was killed between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m. at a time which Lechmere would have been passing. It was a frenzy attack as well. They believe that was possibly the first Ripper victim because of the fact that it was such a frenzy, almost like an excited murder, as what they would call it. Mary Ann Nichols was obviously the second victim, and she was Lechmere's discovery. Annie Chapman was a grotesque murder in the backside of a house that is on Lechmere's walk to work, and the coroner determined that the murder must have been committed at around 3:30 or 4:30 a.m. Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were outside of his comfort zone, and they were known as the double event. Now, that's where a lot of Ripperologists and even just like criminologists in universities and stuff would push Charles Cross Lechmere away as a suspect, because the victims were not on, they thought was not on a particular route or an area that he was aware of, because serial killers, they usually commit their crimes in and around areas that they are frequent with and they are aware of, which is
comfortable with, essentially.
Yes,
they know where they're going when they've done the dastardly deed.
Exactly. So,
but a lot of serial killers also step outside their comfort zone where they get comfortable.
So did Charles Lechmere.
And they're like, whoa, I'm a bit brave.
So did Mr. Cross, Mr. Lechmere. Okay, so the double event, he knew the areas very, very well. Okay, Elizabeth Stride was killed on Saturday night, which was his only day off, and he was in the area, allegedly at the time, visiting his mother and daughter, or could possibly have been, because they lived incredibly close to where her body was discovered. If he did, his route home would have taken him past the murder site, once again, not finishing his work, because this was the murder that JJ, you were thinking about, of the Dershowitz guy.
Yeah.
Who the body was found in the dark parking area where he was taking his throat cut, and it was one of the
he did have to go inside, didn't he?
That's it, a Welshman. But
Dershowitz.
people believe that was him on a weekend just trying to do what he wanted to do, but he was again disturbed, and the victim's wounds were very similar to the first victim that he was found with, Mary Nichols, where he was also disturbed with. So, because he's been disturbed, you can probably think that of a serial killer, you're going to be pretty pissed off. You haven't done so you're built up with frustration. You haven't released all of your frustration. So he's left the scene and walked a route that he knew for 20 years because of his workplace. He had worked there for so long, and that took him through Mitre Square, where Catherine Eddowes was mutilated and where everything was absolutely thrown everywhere. There you go, the Masonic signs that JJ's demonstrating. That's where he's had a lot of his times. And there are also people, not particularly that I've done with my research, but I have heard of it, that people have actually walked the route that he would have taken, and within the time window, again, totally would have been plausible for him to have committed the murders. So Mary Kelly, we're getting to her because this is the interesting one as well, because again, kind of feels like it's out of the comfort zone. With the double event, it was on the route to work and it was at his mother's old house. But sorry, Ben, go on.
I'm going to say that the Mary Kelly one doesn't really fit with any of the suspects except for one.
But she escaped. No. She went to Ireland. She went to Ireland with Prince Albert.
Okay, so Mary Kelly was attacked between 3 or 4 a.m., which when all the murders have particularly happened, and when Lechmere is on his one of two routes to work each time. Okay, so she was killed in a lodging house again, kind of outside of his comfort zone, or at least outside of his walk to work. But what historians have also found is that the lodging area to which she stayed was in the middle of a housing estate where Lechmere grew up. Now, so that's not outside of a comfort zone, to which a lot of people have pushed Charles Cross and Charles Lechmere away because of the double event and Mary Kelly's killing. They're all just like, no, they're like not on particularly his route to work. But they ended up doing some research through census things and this, that, the other, and they actually found that the lodging she was staying was situated in the area where he grew up. So he knew the area incredibly well. There wasn't really, obviously, too many details of how he possibly committed the murder breaking in. But what one historian had recently found out funnily enough, I think maybe possibly in the last decade, a historian expert on Pickfords, which is, I think they're like one of the longest serving companies in London. I could be completely wrong. But
Pickford Pickford are a salvage, but they deal in antiques and
they were a delivery service as well. As well. Now,
they are from what I know from Pickford's, because this links with Francis Tupplety. Mm-hmm. If that's what he was called. I'm so drunk I can't remember.
Tumblety,
they go into houses and take out the things, and then they sell all the good stuff. And then they also do find like family trees and stuff like that. So
that's
could be.
I was quite surprised that there was like a historian for this company, but what he had discovered is back then they had only known that Lechmere was, because he was a very, very seen and gone suspect. It was only until like 100 years later that people were genuinely like, this guy that lied about his name and actually has a different name and and actually links up quite well could be quite of interest. So what he had found out is at the time when Lechmere was employed for the 2 decades at I can't remember what the name of the company was. They weren't Pickfords, but he was back then. They were called something else, but they eventually renamed to Pickfords. He was in fact a meat deliverer, so he would have been. It would be normal for him to have been absolutely smothered in blood at any time when he was seen. So also been like the leather apron, which was originally caused. Was thought of to be like, the guy with a leather apron, cut proof, blah, 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 And a lot of people have sat there and been able to say, well, if someone was to go into Mary Kelly's lodge and commit what they did, what happened to Mary Kelly,
he was seasoned in cutting up shit.
Yeah, and he would have been
like AC Slater, like what we were talking before.
The sticks now.
Cutting up the dance floor.
But
slapping those sticks.
That kind of brings to a conclusion as to how much I am pointing the finger at Lechmere. He sounds like either Jack the Ripper or the unluckiest man alive for all of these things that can point towards him being absolutely responsible, or at least responsible for one of the killings. Like,
to use the same Alan Partridge quote again, can I shock you? I think this guy might be the guy.
Yeah.
I do think there's your because my research leads it to being, well, he was in the right place at the right time. Your guy leads himself again. He was doing the murders at that time.
Yeah, because there's time constraints and there's
Whereas my guy's well, he was a murderer and he was in Whitechapel.
Yeah, and they're more interested with trying to throw Jews and Polish immigrants as the top suspects.
So both of us guys don't really lend themselves to being those typical.
Oh, whoa! Yeah, you say your guy is not like my guy. Like
your guy definitely wasn't the guy.
I'm not talking about Albert. I'm talking about fucking Tupplety.
Tupplety was probably
Timplety.
So
Oh, what? Dean's just like, I need to go now, man. Just
I've got to go.
Ross, on the other hand, yeah, okay, but I genuinely think that Mary Kelly's murderer was a different guy altogether.
Because it was so different to everything else. Because it was so bad.
I think it was Joseph Barnett, her boyfriend.
Barnett was the one. Just going back onto Dean's one though, like the fact, like the big fact, and I understand it because in my mind it's all about like the immigration thing. That was a huge thing at the time. He said to the first police officer, "This is my name, Cross."
Yeah.
And then he said in his interview afterwards that it wasn't Cross. He said it was. I don't even think it was. I don't even think he said it was his actual name.
Well, he didn't tell the first police officer he saw his name. It was only after Robert Paul had been in the paper that he had to sit there and then go to the inquest, to which he then called himself Cross. But
exactly,
he was known
which
as
is
Lechmere.
which in my mind is God, I'm fucking wasted.
He had to do it under oath. He had to do it under oath back then as well, and to swear on the Bible. Like,
but if that's the thing. If you are an immigrant and you don't believe in the God that the English Church or the Catholic Church is giving to you, you would just be like, yeah, I am this. But then one thing in my mind, like consciously, if someone says to me, you have to swear on this, it doesn't matter what fucking God you are. Like you're godless if you if you're ripping out people's fucking uteruses. Yeah. You're godless. Like it does. You're not going to be like, oh, I swear on fucking like Allah or like
Buddha,
Jesus. Yeah, exactly. You're not. Oh Jesus. Yeah. Kanye Jesus. But if you're doing those fucking things, you're not going to swear at any God. And this is the thing that in my mind changes my opinion of that, because if you can do those brutal things, you're not bothered about where you come from or anything like that. So he's more exactly. He's more bothered about his social status within, because he's thinking it's something that he can just say, oh yeah, sorry, that's me, and then he can carry on his life. Not in a way that he's done it, just in a way that like I don't want any attention bringing to me because I'm an immigrant, and I don't want people thinking that I'm a fucking murderer the rest of my life. You know, that's how I see it. Like,
I understand.
You know, like seeing it from a point of view of that.
The bit that got me for it though was when they actually timed the journeys that he would have to take. Yeah. Like, and the fact that they've actually got like, well, it's taken us 7 minutes to get here from his home at Doveton Street.
People walk faster nowadays. People walk faster.
And one thing that they also pointed out, that he claimed that he only saw Robert Paul 30 to 40 yards away from him, whereas they were saying that back then people would wear like heavy boots, and they.
Oh, we were saying this. We were saying this last episode.
You would hear them from ages away. To which Lechmere was like, "No, I didn't hear him." Whereas he clearly fucking did. He clearly did. And
we were saying on the last episode, right, how they made it a thing where the police wore steel boots so people would know that we're there.
Yeah.
You've got to you've got to look at it how it is now. Like people wouldn't do that. Like
there's no noise
you've got to look at it like a human level. I maybe this is a good time to wrap up on it. Like I personally, well, not just because I'm like, oh yes, I believe this, but you've got to look at it at a time where like humans, we think we're intelligent, but we're not intelligent enough to like understand the meanings and beings of everything. Like we talked when I said about the boots trapping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That guy is just like, he's walking down his street and he's just, in his mind, he's just thinking, oh my God, everyone's going to think it's me because I'm an immigrant or my friend's an immigrant or, you know, I just want to go to work and make sure my family is sound.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's the thing I find with all of these murderers. And we've said from the get-go, not Not these murderers. Not Prince Albert, the guy who actually did it. This feels like a Running Man.
The problem with the murderers is
to me,
their problem is that it's society's problem.
Yeah, exactly. But that is it. Like it every time something happens, you kind of like, oh yeah, but I don't want people to think that I said that. You know, it's just like this podcast. We're just like, yeah, well, you know, for instance, if we came out with something and they were like, oh, that podcast said something, all of us collectively would be like, nah, no, we didn't say that, but we said it in this sincerity. Like it isn't nasty. It's just a thing that it's true. And I think that's what it seems like with that guy. It just seems like he was there. He was in the wrong place.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong time.
It almost felt like.
You think that Charles Cross was in the wrong place, wrong time?
I think so. Yeah, I don't. If I walked down the street and I saw a fucking dead prostitute who had a head hanging off, I'd just be like, am I the person who fucking tells everyone about it? Or
did I do this?
Yeah.
I think I did it.
Exactly. I don't like, I love all of the concepts of Jack the Ripper, but I genuinely don't think anyone will ever know about it.
Yeah.
Because it is all like, there was 5 people. So that immediately, like in triangulation, that immediately means that there's like 5 times 3 people. So there's 15 people who are then going to tell another fucking 15 people. It's literally going to be, it's never going to end.
It will never end, but the coincidences are too much. I'm on Lechmere.
I know that we've said this time and time again, but in reality, it's probability-wise, it's probably more 5 different killings or maybe 3 different killers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
it's either a coincidental string of murders around that time, or it was the media just playing up a bunch of them.
There's 9, isn't there? There's 9 Whitechapel Murders.
Yeah.
Linked together.
But if
probably
I could go
4 killers, maybe.
But if I could go, I do believe if Lechmere was trialed in this day and age, he would be like the smoking gun, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Right.
I'd agree.
I've got to depart.
Deeming maybe did some of them. Cross probably did some of them. All of JJ's picks did none of them.
Fuck off. Mine were the most legit. Like I had no evidence.
The most famous. I'm gonna put that there.
I have no evidence. And
I genuinely think we might have got at least one of the killers right in this.
I think so.
Series,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Demon
one
and
of the killers of
Cross.
one of the murders.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
You know when they do like UFC like underdogs and stuff. We should definitely get that on the next episode. Like people should vote.
I'm not doing another episode that has any link to more than 1 or 2 killers. Because this is, to me, too much research, too much ambiguity at the end of the series, and I genuinely think that we may have let our fans down.
We could definitely do a 30-minute episode on the Yorkshire Ripper, and I will win. I will win because it was my dad.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, because it was my dad.
I have to go.
Thank you so much for tuning in to part 2 of Jack the Ripper, episode 12.
Part 3 coming next week.
And on part 3, we're going to decide how JJ's dad had something to do with the whole thing.
Part 3, I'm going to America. I'm going to get Dean wasted.
Please.
Another 3-hour episode. And thank you, Dean. I know that you've had a long day at work, but unfortunately, we don't have work at the moment.
I know you don't. Lucky.
We're in
So
lockdown.
I didn't have work today, and I made a music video for Enya.
And I did nothing, Dean. And also, you have a new president.
Yeah.
He is a child sniffer.
Child sniffer. I have
He's
to
a
go.
child.
President
Oh
my God. Oh
Make
my
sure
God.
you sign up for Patreon.
Please.
Make sure you're on the Discord. And thank you so much for listening. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
He didn't. Love you all. Bye-bye.
That's what happens. When it comes to it, in the thing.
Oh, maybe they did. So in the back, there isn't.
Yeah, light brown jacket.
Cool story.
Without the first, we definitely